game. It's a rich thing. It's not a game. It's a rich thing. a game. It's a red sting. It's not a game. It's a red sting.
Please release me. Play me in if you can. Talking Humperdinck, that came from Tony Livesey's Fact of the Day on Friday in the Drive programme, the quiz for the football commentators on 5 Live. I learned that Elvis Presley's big bushy sideburns were inspired by Engelbert Humperdinck. Having seen him perform, he decided to grow them himself, so we've managed to get it into the commentary, Steve.
There's been some impressive stats today, and that has topped them all.
Let's concentrate on the football. Dyer for Tottenham. So Tottenham need to find.
You see, that was very neatly done. I only have one issue with it, which is the fact that it's not called Tony Livesey's Fact of the Day, and you weren't even here, and still managed to get the credit for it.
Yes. Well,
now,
yes.
Ali, that was neat, but come on. I mean, he did say at the end of the item that I did a far better job of it. Well, I might be paraphrasing, but I did a far better job of it than you.
I'll leave you to take that up with him. Kelly Cates is here. 5 Live Sports taking over now. Kelly, if only the commentating can be as of much quality tonight, as informative.
We don't have Alistair Bruce Ball, but I did like what Ali said about talking of Humperdinck. That came from Tony Livesey, and I didn't really understand what the connection was. It was definitely firing neurons in his brain, but I don't know why.
I know. The only reason I chose that fact was because I wanted to hear Engelbert Humperdinck during a football commentary, and we got him twice, so which was very good. Right, Kelly, so that is it from us. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
I'll be here tomorrow if you are, Kelly, but Anna's off now, so
I'm not here tomorrow. I'm here. I'm not here till after Christmas now. So have a lovely, lovely Christmas day in whatever way you can manage to make it happen.
Oh, we will. You too. Take care.
Cheers, Kelly.
Happy Christmas. Happy Christmas. Everybody's feeling very festive, and there'll be 2 more teams feeling festive by the end of tonight's live football on 5 Live Sport.
This is 5 Live Sport with Kelly Cates.
If ever a team needed some cup success.
Scores, City win. Right-footed, here he is. He's blasted it in! Sterling scores! City win the cup.
And Newcastle are looking to avoid becoming another Brentford Premier League scalp.
The games are coming thick and fast, but we've got a wonderful opportunity to get to a semi-final of a cup. It's been far too long as it's been one.
So he may come on at some stage. Ivan Toney, who has been a revelation this season for Brentford, they brought him in to replace the player they sold to Ollie Watkins to Aston Villa. Now Watkins had scored whatever it was, 25 goals last season. You would imagine it's going to be very difficult to replace those goals. Toney has come in, absolute revelation, 16 goals already in the league. He's got more goals than anyone in the top 4 divisions, and he is on the bench tonight, which is a little bit disappointing because I think we would love to see him get at Newcastle. He only made very brief cameo appearances during his time at St James's Park. He was a young player when they took him from Northampton, but you would imagine he would love to show them just how good he is and maybe what they're missing out on. We may see it at some stage. I think, Kelly, it actually shows a confidence of Brentford that, here they are in a quarter-final. They've never got to a semi-final of the League Cup ever, and they're leaving their top scorer on the bench. And maybe the reason is because they've that, here they are in a quarter-final. They've never got to a semi-final of the League Cup ever, and they're leaving their top scorer on the bench. And maybe the reason is because they've already claimed 3 Premier League scalps this season already without needing to have him on the pitch. So they have him in reserve, but maybe they feel they're strong enough to beat Newcastle anyway.
Paul on social media said Brentford have a really good opportunity to get to the semis against an awful and unadventurous Newcastle. Don't see why they didn't name a stronger lineup. Stephen said there's something seriously wrong if that team and bench can't get it done tonight. He's a Newcastle fan. He said we have to play on the front foot and take the initiative. George said it's a free hit at a cup game against a decent team in the league below, but do the right thing and go and attack the game. No good defending all game and playing on the counter. Just go for it. Karen, there's an expectation from Newcastle fans who feel that there hasn't been too much to cheer as far as the league is concerned, that they're unhappy with the fact that the teams maybe haven't gone for cup competitions too often over the past few years. Is this an opportunity for them, or is it a potentially difficult one against Brentford, even without Ivan Toney?
First of all, hi Kelly, you okay?
Hi, I'm very well, thanks. Hello.
Good, I'm glad to hear it. I think, look, Newcastle haven't really had cup success, and I think Steve Bruce, he knows the area, knows what the fans want, and he has prioritised that when he's come in to manage the side. He said, look, we need to focus on his cup competitions and give the fans some potential silverware or a good cup run. So I think he's put out a strong side tonight. I think it's a good opportunity. I'm very surprised at the Brentford, starting 11, because I thought they would go. It's a good opportunity. I'm very surprised at the Brentford, starting 11, because I thought they would go. It's not. In the first place. Beating 3 of the Premier League sides, so but it is big for Newcastle. They will be expected to win here, and it's not an easy place to come for sure.
It's not going to be an easy game for either side this evening. Very finely balanced, this one, Ali. So what have they gone with, especially with Newcastle still being hit by the longer term effect of that COVID outbreak?
I'll let that Ali slip. I'll take it as a
do
massive
you know
compliment.
what, Connor? I'm so sorry. I was talking. Do you know what? I think my manners have been appalling this evening. I didn't even properly say hello to Karen because we've only got
Kelly, have you been
like
on the
10
sherry
minutes to go
today?
to kick off.
I mean, I've seen your Insta stories. I've seen the green hair. I think that needs to be mentioned. And now you're on the sherry.
It's because I haven't had sherry. I think that's what it is. It's because I was talking to Tony Livesey about Alistair Bruce Ball and his Engelbert
We know that
Humperdinck
you're
facts.
a good person, Kelly. We're fine. Don't worry.
Don't believe anything they say about you, Kelly. It's all lies. Right. Here, let's give you the team news. Brentford, last time out, beat Reading here. 3-1 in the Championship on Saturday. There are 6 changes. Luke Daniels, who started his career at Manchester United, was at West Brom for many years. He's going to be in goal as he has been on this League Cup run this campaign. At right back, Tariq Fosu, who's a Ghanaian who normally plays as a right winger but had to fill in at right back on Saturday against Reading and keeps his place there. He'll be alongside Ethan Pinnock, Mads Sorensen and Dominic Thompson. Then in the middle of the midfield, Josh Da Silva and Vitaly Janich, the German midfielder. This is the first time he's ever played in the League Cup. Then you've got Emiliano Marcondes, Saman Godos, Sergi Canos, who started his career at Liverpool, played once in the Premier League during his time at Anfield. And then Marcus Fors, who I saw score for Finland against France at the Stade de France last month, normally used off the bench by Brentford, but he gets to start here tonight against a Newcastle team who make changes from their draw at home to Fulham on Saturday. And the changes are as follows, 4 of them. Isaac Hayden comes back into the defence, where he has been playing a bit recently. Fernandes is out. Jamal Lewis is back at left back. Dummett had played first appearance of the weekend, of the season at the weekend. Then Jacob Murphy comes on to play on the right wing, and Ryan Fraser will play on the left. So Carl Darlow, who started every Premier League game this season for Newcastle, is still in goal. Yedlin, Hayden, Clark and Lewis are the back 4. Longstaff and Shelvey in the middle. We've got Jacob Murphy, Miguel Almiron and Ryan Fraser, all in support of Callum Wilson. And it means that Joe Linton is on the bench, which is a big rarity because Steve Bruce always plays Joe Linton. He's hardly missed a game since Bruce brought him to the club. And it's interesting that he's on the bench now. We get to look at what Newcastle are like without Joe Linton, which we haven't seen very much of.
No, and it's interesting making those changes, Karen, because it is still a relatively strong-looking Newcastle starting 11, but it's been such a difficult tightrope for Steve Bruce to walk with having those players out through the COVID outbreak. He's still got a couple of them missing, Jamal Lascelles and Alison Maximan still unavailable to him, and yet at the same time thinking this might be a season while we're relatively comfortable-ish in the league that we could maybe make a push for this.
Yeah, look, like I said earlier, they've got to go for it tonight. They've got to get themselves in the semi-final and push as hard as they can. Newcastle is a massive football club. You know, that should be their aspirations, and that's what the fans want, and they're desperate to see them progress in a competition such as this. But it is a very strong side. You know, I do feel they do miss St. Maximin. That's an obvious statement. And Lascelles as well, he's a rock at the back. I think his leadership at times they have missed. But tonight, like I said, it's a fantastic opportunity. And but it won't be easy. You know, Brentford, I was just reading, you know, we're talking about Force just come in. You know, Spurs and Dortmund are watching him apparently. You know, so we know the recruitment, how clever Brentford are, that they have these players that eventually go on and are wonderful in their next club. So it's not going to be easy tonight because a lot of people are in the shop window here for Brentford because we know the type of club that they are.
We'll talk a little bit more about our second commentary later on ahead of Arsenal against Manchester City. But Karen, just to start to look ahead to it right now, if you're Mikel Arteta tonight, we talked about the issues there for Brentford and Newcastle in terms of team selection. What do you do if you're Mikel Arteta? Do you, even though we know Aubameyang is not going to be playing for Arsenal, do you go strong in this game?
Look, my priority would be the Premier League, if I'm brutally honest. I know it's against what I've just said about Newcastle, but I just think Arsenal, they need to focus back on the Premier League. They could tonight, you know, stop the rut in terms of getting a good result, and that would build momentum. But for me, I wouldn't want to risk any injuries. I wouldn't want to risk anything. And my focus, you know, they got Chelsea, Brighton and West Brom next. And I hate to say it, but Brighton and West Brom are 2 must-win games for them. So they've got to be focusing on that. And it's so it's not nice to say that, and Arsenal fans won't be happy, but that's the reality of where they're at. They have to prioritise the Premier League at this moment in time.
I commentated on Arsenal at the weekend against Everton. I mean, I was just so shocked. Yerry Mina scores the goal with a header from a corner, and they didn't have their tallest defenders marking him, and Yerry Mina's enormous. And, you know, I think it was Nketiah who they put marking him for the corner, who's much shorter. And it's just little elementary things like that going against Arsenal. I can see what Arteta was thinking. He brought in Willian in the summer. He thought, you know, here's a guy who knows the Premier League. There's no risk here. I've got some talented youngsters. He'll get the most out of them. For whatever reason, that's not gelled. Willian has not been providing assists. He's not been scoring goals. And you look at the stats for Arsenal this season, they're absolutely frightening. Since that October international break, and, you know, we're now at Christmas, that's a long time ago, Arsenal have been on almost every variable the worst team. They've had the fewest shots, they've scored the fewest goals, they've won the fewest games. They're in massive trouble.
You know about
Go on, sorry, Karen.
I spoke to David Luiz when I was at Chelsea, and he kind of said to us, the type of players that he is, and Willian in particular, the Brazilians like to be happy and relaxed. And I haven't seen Willian smiling, I don't know how long. He doesn't look happy on the football pitch. And David Luiz was saying that the type of players, him and Hazard as well, they have to enjoy themselves, they have to smile to get the best performances. So for me, he doesn't look happy. His performances aren't great. So there's something, I don't know, something's not sitting quite right, whether the dressing room's slightly split, whether there's too much noise in terms of Arteta over-managing them, because on the side you can hear everything and he's defend. And as an attacker, that must be really frustrating.
We will see if Arsenal get a chance to try and turn their season around when they face Manchester City. That one, an 8 o'clock kickoff. And as I said, we'll be talking lots more about that in the build-up and at the end of this Carabao Cup quarter-final between Brentford and Newcastle. We talked about Brentford's Ivan Toney. He's the top scorer in the Championship, 16 goals so far this season. In 3 years at Newcastle at the start of his career, he only made 2 appearances. So what does Steve Bruce make of him now?
Well, certainly he's done very, very well. You know, he's obviously had the biggest disappointment of all, of being rejected. And he certainly, the way he looks at them and at playing with that burning desire to do well and prove people wrong. But he's had to go away, go into non-league, I believe, and then surfaced at Peterborough. And you have to say well done to the kid. He's done very well. He will be a threat. He's playing with a lot of confidence. I went to see them 2 weeks ago, and they're a good side. And he's, you know, the sellers centre forward for 30-odd million, and they buy him for 5 or 6 or whatever it was, and he's top goal scorer. So they keep reproducing it, and they do it very, very well.
Karen, I'm always fascinated by players like Ivan Toney who get that rejection early in their career, if we want to call it that, and then manage to build themselves up. And actually, it's almost like a broken bone. It heals stronger. You see that resilience in the finished player.
I think that the word you used there correctly was resilient. I don't like the word kind of rejection. I just think it's a different route. You know, sometimes you have to take a step back to go too forward. And he went to Peterborough, renowned for producing centre forwards, and maybe give him the confidence and the belief, because it is difficult when you're at a big club and you're kind of a small fish in a big pond, and you need to go and feel loved as a centre forward. And I always think you end up where you're meant to. So if he's a top player, he'll end up where he's meant to be. It's just his route and his path might have taken him a different direction for that time.
His route and his path this evening will have to be from the bench, because that is where he starts the match between Brentford and Newcastle. It is the Carabao Cup quarter-final. Remember, this one will go straight to penalties if it's level after 90 minutes. To take you through the game, Karen Carney is with Conor McNamara.
Yes, thanks very much. Behind closed doors at the new Brentford Community Stadium this Tuesday night on 5 Live and BBC Sounds. It's my first visit here. I'm giving this a 5-star review, by the way. I really like this, and not just because they gave me a free chocolate bar when I walked in. It's brilliant, isn't it? It's so compact. They've squeezed a 17,000 capacity stadium onto a small enough patch of land. But there's something about this, even though it's a modern structure, it's got a bit of character. Can you imagine if Brentford got up into the Premier League or played Premier League games here? It'd be fascinating.
It's so nice. I mean, the screens in front of us that we get for radio and TV, it's massive. I can't even see on the pitch. I'm having to, you know, it's wonderful. It's clean, it's slick. The staff are wonderful, and you know, it's a credit to the football club. They've produced this type of venue, and it'd be great to see them in the Premier League, and this place would be absolutely rocking. And there is a Women's Euros game here as well, so it is a top venue, and top games will be played here.
Now, the one thing is, so the stadium is fantastic. They do play rugby here as well. pitch isn't great, Karen, and I think we almost get spoiled and we get used to these days seeing the elite pitches and seeing them absolutely top-notch. This is there's quite a bit of patchy mud, and you can see evidence that rugby's been played here.
Yeah, I mean, I felt bad. I walked in and went, great stadium, shocking pitch. I did, and I felt really bad, and it was a bit, I hope, we are blessed with luxury of fantastic pitches that we see, but it is cutting up. It's definitely a stud, not a mould.
And on that, I mean, in the old days, we used to say, when a Premier League club would play a team from a lower division, is the pitch going to be a bit of a leveller? I mean, look, by no means is this in any way a bog or anything like that, but just because Newcastle are completely used to playing on a snooker table, could it have any bit of a difference as the referee, Robert Jones, blows his whistle and the players all take a knee, and the message is there's no room for racism, and all 22 players and the officials and the backroom staff all taking a knee there. This is 5 Live from the BBC. Brentford against Newcastle, a place in the semi-final of the League Cup at stake. That draw for the semis will take place tomorrow evening after the game between Everton and Manchester United. Tonight we find out who the first name in that semi-final lineup will be here in London. Then later on at 8 o'clock we'll bring you Arsenal against Manchester City to find out the second, and then 2 more quarter-finals tomorrow, both of them live on 5 Live. And in this season's Carabao Cup, the usual 2-legged semi-finals have been replaced by a single tie. The semis to take place in early January. It comes up right the first week of January, so very soon we'll be knowing who'll be in that Carabao Cup final, and could it be Newcastle, could it be Brentford? Brentford, who I guess would be a team that no top-flight side would fancy taking on at the moment. They've only lost 3 games all season. Brentford haven't been beaten in any competition since October, and when they've come up against Premier League sides this season on this run in the League Cup, Brentford have already knocked out Southampton, West Brom and Fulham. Tonight they're looking for their 4th Premier League scalp of the campaign. There's some defending to do for Newcastle. Jacob Murphy did well to win the ball, and then Brentford break up away over the halfway line. Josh Da Silva has done well to ride a challenge of Longstaff, and he's got Sergio Canos outside him on the right-hand side. Da Silva gets involved once more. Low ball into the penalty area, and no risks taken by Kieran Clark, and he clears it away for Newcastle, who are wearing their change strip tonight. The yellow shirts. I don't know if it's my eyes. I always wonder, is that colour a yellow, or is it a sort of a slightly yellowy green? And I did look it up, Karen, and the Newcastle website says that this kit is called Fizzy Yellow with a dark peacock blue stripe. So there you know. As Callum Wilson tries to attack down the left-hand side for Newcastle, and Ethan Pinnock gets there ahead of him and touches it back to Luke Danielson. Goal.
I was going to say it was a bit like my washing gone wrong. If I'm being brutally honest, it should have been yellow, but it's been put in with something else.
It's kind of high vis, isn't it? You're not going to get run over in the dark wearing that Newcastle strip, as Jamal Lewis wins a header near the halfway line for Newcastle, who are playing from right to left as we look down here at the Brentford Community Stadium. Josh Da Silva has it again midway inside the Newcastle half. Jamal Lewis climbing all over him, trying to get it off him, but Da Silva's strong, and we've seen evidence of that twice now in the early stages as he just holds off the challenge to dispossess him. Here he is involved again, Da Silva, laying it off to Godos, who has a shot from outside the penalty area, and it had power and it was dipping, but it's just wide of the target. It's the first shot in anger of the game. 2 minutes played. Brentford 0, Newcastle 0.
Tell you what, Newcastle need to wake up. It's a great strike from Godos. He's picked it up on the edge of the 18-yard box, and it's one of them where you hit it so sweet and it just zips and zings. It was just slightly off target, but had a lot of pace and power in the back of it. But Newcastle started a bit sloppily. One
of those that could have flown anywhere. Really good attempt from Saman Godos, who's never scored for Brentford, on loan from Amiens, the French club. As Newcastle try to come forward here with Almiron, and he goes down midway inside the Brentford half. And as he goes down, he picks up the ball. He thought he was going to get a free kick. He handles the ball. The referee says, no, you weren't fouled, but now you've handled it. Handball and a free kick to Brentford, which they take quickly. And Canos attacks down the right-hand side, and he wins another free kick, and this is within 15 yards or so of the Newcastle penalty area. Speaking of garish colours, by the way, and we're talking about the Newcastle away kit, have you seen Kelly Cates' Instagram stories today?
I haven't, no. What's been going on?
Might be worth checking out. I believe her kids have turned her into an elf. She has got green hair for Christmas. So that's why I was wondering if she'd been on the sherry, by the way. I saw the green hair, but we're assured not.
She can get away with green hair. She's a legend.
If anyone can, absolutely. So free kick to Brentford. is midway inside the Newcastle half. Godos will play it forward. Good. Oh, it's a really good delivery. No one on the end of it. Dominic Thompson, the far post, trying to creep in. Marcondes was there too. No one got a touch. In fact, it must have taken a touch off a defender. I think it came off Callum Wilson because it's going to be a corner. Corner to Brentford, 0-0 here, but Brentford have started well.
Yes, Godos with a great ball in. Wilson did enough just to take it off because it was an out-swinging, bent-in, wide free kick, and all it needed was someone just to tap it in. So Wilson did the right thing and got ahead and cleared it away.
So a corner to Brentford in their red and white stripes. The black shorts, the black socks, playing from left to right as we look down, doing well. Sitting at the moment 4th place in the Championship, having come so close and losing out in the playoffs last summer to come up to the top flight. There's a good delivery and a flying header, and it was the defender Ethan Pinnock who puts it wide of the target. He's 1 goal this season, came in this competition against Wickham back in September, and Newcastle, they allowed him a free header almost to that front post. That was a really good chance.
Yeah, he got away from Hayden there, Pinnock. The ball was an in-swinging corner. He got in front of Hayden, got slightly away from him, got a glancing header on it, but it was just slightly too high and over the bar. But again, it's a really positive start from Brentford. I feel Newcastle might be still on the bus.
Yeah, Steve Bruce is down below us wearing his warm, padded winter coat. He's got his hands in his pockets watching on. Bruce, who won the League Cup as a player in the 80s with Norwich City. There's Ryan Fraser, former Bournemouth player, has it on the left-hand side for Newcastle, back through Sean Longstaff in the midfield, and now Kieran Clark will come up from defence and give it back to Fraser on the left wing. He puts it in front of Jamal Lewis, who can't quite get to the byline down the left-hand side, and that is going to be a goal kick. That's the most promising build-up we've seen from Newcastle, but no cross on the end of it. Karen Carney.
No, the idea was there. They tried to get an overload down this left-hand side. Fraser was quite nippy onto the ball, Kieran Clark, and tried to play in Lewis, but the pass was just too long. But I'm interested to see a little bit more of Fraser. He's been in and out since he's come to Newcastle. I think he's been a top player. He obviously had that stop-start season last season with Bournemouth, and I thought coming here to Newcastle he would really kick on, so maybe a bit of a run of games now that will help him.
Yeah, and when he has been on his game, he's been fantastic in the Premier League. He was one of Bournemouth's better players over recent seasons. Just 2 starts in the Premier League so far for Newcastle for Ryan Fraser. Here he is in possession midway inside the Brentford half. He's got Jamal Lewis with him up from left back again to little Fraser. John Joe Shelby calls for it and receives on the halfway line. Passes it infield to Shelby. Longstaff. If you missed the team news earlier on, strong team named by Steve Bruce, who clearly wants to progress in this competition. 15 years since Newcastle have been in a semi-final in any competition. You've got to go back to 1976 for the last time they've been in a semi-final of the League Cup. And across on the far side there goes out of play and out for a throw into Brentford. Right full-back position for them, and Tariq Fosu will take it. He scored for Ghana against Qatar in a friendly earlier on this season. Has scored 1 goal in the League Cup in his career in the past as well. It was with his old club Oxford. It was against a Premier League opponent last season. You might remember when Oxford beat West Ham by 4 goals to 0. This evening he's playing at right back for Brentford, a player who's normally a right winger. Throws it into Janelt. His clearance is up to the halfway line, but Brentford's players had all come deep to defend, and that's easily mopped up by Kieran Clark, who gives it back to goalkeeper Carl Darlow. Steve Bruce is going to have a big goalkeeping decision to make soon. Because Martin Dubravka, who's been a fantastic player for them in recent seasons, he's been out since the summer injured. Darlow's come in, and I think, to be fair to Darlow, he's done quite well, but you would imagine Dubravka, once fit, will have to come back into the team. It's going to be a tough one for the coach, though, to say to Darlow, look, you've not really done anything wrong, but this guy's our number 1. Potentially,
but I think it was a bit of a situation for him. Not necessarily tonight, but I do think he'll stick with Darlow. I really do. I think he'll back him. I think so. It's going to take time, and just as an outfield player, it would be the same for goalkeepers. It takes time for him to embed in. I think you stick with what you got so far, and unless training is significantly improved and he's really standing out, then maybe stick with what you know.
It'll be interesting to see. Dubravka, who's been out with an ankle problem, but very close to a return now. Isaac Hayden playing centre half for Newcastle. I saw him play that position at St James's Park about 10 days ago against West Brom. He did well. Longstaff plays a nice ball down the left wing, which Jamal Lewis tries to head infield towards Miguel Almiron. Almiron, who scored after 20 seconds in that game against West Brom. And then Brentford bring it up to the halfway line. The referee gives a free kick for a foul on Jamal Lewis.
Do you know who I've been really impressed with over the last 6 or 7 months? Is Josh Da Silva. I watched a lot of him cover the England 21s this season, and last season as well. And he's been really impressive. I know the England staff really think highly of him. He's really improved. You already know physically he's very good. Technically, I think he's improved as well. And he's had a bright start here, actually. Getting in amongst them has made it difficult for Newcastle, but really impressed with him.
Yes. Got a good presence in the midfield, just kind of cruises around, covering a lot of ground. Josh Da Silva, we mentioned right at the start of the commentary, how he's able to ride a tackle. And Newcastle come on the attack down the right-hand side here with Jacob Murphy. And Murphy in a race with Dominic Thompson, the fullback. Thompson beats him to it, slides and puts the ball out of play for a Newcastle throw. Jacob Murphy, who delivered a brilliant cross in that game against West Brom, was mentioning to set up the winner for Dwight Gale. Gale, who is on the bench this evening, along with Andy Carroll. Plenty of attacking options for Steve Bruce should it be required. Remember, no extra time if this one was to finish level after 90 minutes. It will be straight to penalties. We might get a bit of drama this evening on 5 Live as Mads Bech Sorensen clears away one of the many Danish players. There's a real Danish mafia at Brentford these days. Thomas Frank, the Danish coach, has filled his squad with his compatriots. And Sorensen, one of those, playing alongside Ethan Pinnock at the heart of the Brentford defence this evening. They've also got Emiliano Marcandes, the Dane, in the team, the starting 11 tonight. As Callum Wilson jumps on the edge of the Brentford penalty area, and he comes right back to him. He's done so well here. Wilson shoots and target saved. Back to Wilson, tries a second time, bundled into the goalkeeper, but Luke Daniels somehow survived that. The most dangerous chance of the match for Newcastle. Wilson couldn't believe he got a second bite at that cherry, and the goalkeeper made a save one-on-one.
Look, it was a big mistake from Sorensen, really. Callum Wilson he made the mistake. He does what he does best. He just chases things down. He's so awkward, gets his body in front of him. He gets the shot off, and Daniels makes a great save, and he tries to get the rebound as well, but Sorensen just loses him. You can't take your eye off Callum Wilson for 1 second, because you know he's a constant threat, but Daniels dug him out there.
We are live on 5 Live final score this evening. You can listen to our commentary along with the graphics and the video printer on the BBC Sport website. And later on this evening we have got Arsenal against Manchester City. That is an 8 o'clock kickoff here on 5 Live. Another of the Carabao Cup quarter-finals. 0-0 for the moment here. We've played 12 minutes now. Brentford has done well. That little scare, Callum Wilson's first time in around the back of the defence. The only worrying moment they have had to this stage of the game as Fosu gives it up to Josh Da Silva, and then Sergi Canos was caught late by Jamal Lewis as Canos played away. He's just turned and he said to the assistant, "Did you see that? Did you notice that?" Play on for the moment. Brentford glad they did, because here they come into the penalty area left hand side. Canos tried to do a little Cruyff turn, and Isaac Hayden anticipated he would do that, takes the ball off him, and it eventually goes out for a goal kick to Newcastle. Away to our right-hand side. Sergi Canos, who started his career with Liverpool. He made 1 substitute appearance for them in the Premier League. He came on for just 9 minutes at the end of a 1-1 draw against West Brom. That was the end of the season in May 2016. That was all they got to see at him at Anfield. 23 years of age now, and he has been a regular for Brentford in the Championship this season. Darlow away to our right-hand side. takes his time over this goal kick. 3 very tough games coming up for Newcastle. And you consider the strong team they've named tonight. They travel to Manchester City on Boxing Day, then it's Liverpool, and then it's Leicester in back-to-back home games. So City, Liverpool and Leicester all back-to-back for Newcastle coming up as Fraser goes down inside the Brentford half, fouled by Canos. Free kick to Newcastle.
It's better from Fraser. He's gone backwards every single time he's got the ball, and Fosu is a good defender, but I want to see Fraser take more of a risk. He's very good 1v1. I'm not sure I like him out on this left because he's naturally going to come in field, and I think he restricts the crossing situation for Callum Wilson. I'd probably prefer him on the right hand side, but that's probably why you want Jamal Lewis to overlap and give that width from this side.
Almiron plays a nice pass out to DeAndre Yedlin on the far side. Then he does a little 1-2 with Jacob Murphy. Excellent defending though, as Dominic Thompson wins it back for Brentford. Give it up towards Josh Da Silva. Look at that little drag back to himself to get away from Longstaff, and now he accelerates away from Jonjo Shelvey. Really good from Josh Da Silva. Brentford can cross. Canos into the penalty area, and Gonos, it came at an awkward angle. He didn't know where it headed or chested. He kind of propelled it off his chest, and that was it was Marcondes. That was unfortunate, and it rolls through to Carl Darlow. But that's what you were talking about, Karen. Josh Da Silva, that was brilliant
Bit of skill. Put his foot on the top of the ball and rolled and shimmied away from Jonjo Shelvey and just couldn't catch him up. He's so quick and strong, but technically then driving towards the back line of Newcastle, who, to be fair to him, stayed in the back four and made it difficult for him to pick out a pass, and it didn't come to anything. But he's been dominant in that midfield area so far in the opening 15 minutes.
Newcastle have won the FA Cup 6 times. They've never won the League Cup. Clark up towards Jamal Lewis, who tried to sell a dummy there. He let the ball go through his legs. He was hoping it would run for Callum Wilson. Wilson was offside anyway, but Tariq Fosu had intercepted. Brentford had possession of the back with Mads Beck Sorensen. Turns 22 next month. This is his 4th appearance on this League Cup run. He'll pass it to Ethan Pinnock, just back from suspension, sent off in his last appearance, the 1-1 draw at Watford last week. He was suspended for the game against Reading in the meantime. Ball rolled forward by Marcondes, helped on by Janelt. And now Thompson, who's up from left back, will cross from the left-hand side. And Jonjo Shelvey in around the penalty spot. The Newcastle defending heads it away. Then there's a foul on Almiron, and that's going to be a free kick to Newcastle just outside the penalty area. So 0-0 here. And we saw the team news earlier on. We saw the 6 changes for Brentford. Tell you what, they've been at it, haven't they? They've been putting this strong Newcastle team under pressure for the get-go.
They have, yeah. They've gone with the back 4 and 1 sitting, and then Josh Da Silva, Marcondes as an attacking 2 in that midfield, and then the front 3. And Forces leading the line, but they've been very aggressive, good technically on the ball, moving it, switching it. They definitely don't look fazed by playing this game, and nor should they, given the route they've got here.
We're next door to the River Thames this evening in Kew Bridge, the Brentford Community Stadium. They've sort of got the mosaic pattern on the new seats here, multiple different colours, which gives that illusion that it's not an empty house, that we're not behind closed doors. Sorensen, just outside the penalty area, turns and rolls it back to Luke Daniels. 3rd appearance for him in this competition this season. First appearance he's had since October, though, Karen.
They're starting to play a little bit more expansive, though, Brentford. But it's situations like this, though, when they give the ball away, this is where Newcastle now have got to hurt them and punish them.
Almiron out to Lewis. Lewis's cross hits the face of Josh Da Silva, and he barely flinches as the ball goes out for a throw-in to Newcastle on the left-hand side. Lewis to Almiron, just level with the edge of the penalty area, and it's too intricate for Newcastle, and Ryan Fraser, who looks a bit rusty tonight, can't keep it in play, and it goes out for a throw.
That's what I don't understand. You've got Callum Wilson in the box, and you've got Jonjo Shelvey was getting in there, and you've got the opportunity to put the ball in the box and cross it in there, and they're just messing around with it. And that's why I don't like perhaps Fraser playing on this left-hand side, because I think he's at his best when he's getting at someone, whipping the ball in. He got so many assists for Bournemouth in that good season that he had. Don't see that bright spark in him on this left-hand side.
Brentford 0, Newcastle United 0, and Brentford run the ball out of play on the far side. 17 minutes on the clock. Isaac Hayden, who has scored in the League Cup this season, got one in Newcastle's 7-0 win against Morecambe in September. Jamal Lewis comes up to the halfway line, isn't happy with the option. He's frustrated there with the runs being made by Fraser and Almiron, and he's gave a little hand signal to both of them to whatever little message he's trying to portray there. And ball played out towards Fraser again, intercepted by Tariq Fosu. And Fosu plays a great ball over the top. Now this is an opportunity. Into the penalty area goes Godos. Didn't quite sit up for him for a shot, but he's got support behind from Dominic Thompson. Now Marcondes. Cross that was intended for Josh Da Silva. It went away from him. Fraser has done well to win it back for Newcastle. And now John Shelvey plays it into space on the far side for Jacob Murphy. This is the right as Newcastle come forward. They're playing right to left as we look down in their luminous yellow shirts. The ball from Murphy was intended for Almiron, but played a little bit too firm, and Sorensen's able to intercept, and he clears it up towards the halfway line. Brentford sitting deep now, and Kieran Clark has got the centre circle all to himself. 0-0 on this early evening kickoff on 5 Live from the BBC, also available on the BBC Sounds app this evening, as Kieran Clark gives it to Shelvey. Can Newcastle get a little bit more direct? They pump it long towards Callum Wilson, tries to control on his chest, under pressure from Ethan Pinnock on the edge of the penalty area, and then there's a foul by Almiron on Fosu, and that will be a free kick for Brentford just outside their own penalty area. Still 0-0, Karen.
Yeah, I mean, I think Newcastle, if they want to start popping the ball and moving it quicker, they've got to give it to Shelvey. He's the quarterback, he's the playmaker, getting them on the ball. That's where I think they're at their best. But it's just hasn't been clicking for them in the final third. And maybe that's been the story of their season so far, really.
Brentford 0, Newcastle 0. If you're joining our coverage late here, there haven't been too many chances. Callum Wilson had the best of them for Newcastle so far. Saman Godos with a shot is as close as Brentford have come. Remember, one way or the other, we will get a winner tonight. One of these teams will be going through to the Carabao Cup semi-final in January. Brentford, who reached the Championship playoff final last season after finishing third in the Championship. They were then beaten by Fulham in that playoff. Fulham came up to the top flight. Brentford remain in the second tier for now. Here is Longstaff, crossed by Fraser from the left-hand side, flashed in front of Callum Wilson. How did he not score from there? It's a fresh air shot from Callum Wilson. I wonder, was his sight impaired as the cross came in? Did he see it come towards him? Because you would have put your mortgage on Callum Wilson scoring from there.
That is what Fraser is all about. Getting to the byline, down his width, and putting in a cross. No messing about, left foot delivery, curling, and it was actually a fantastic little nick from Sorensen, because Wilson would have had a tap in there. But Fraser, that's what you need more of. Get to the byline, get your crosses in, because that's where he's at his best. Don't need to do anything intricate. Put it in there, because Callum Wilson is an absolute threat. Yeah, Callum Wilson, Newcastle's top scorer this season, 7 goals in 9 Premier League appearances. Scored against Fulham on Saturday, a penalty. Scott Parker accused him of diving on Match of the Day, so that Shearer and Genus also thought he had dived. And when I say dived, that he had dived into the penalty area, because what they were saying was that he was sort of fouled outside the box and dived in. But those are the dark arts, I guess. And Newcastle were quite relieved, because they ended up drawing that game 1-1 at home to Fulham on Saturday. He's a big threat, Callum Wilson, but I think in this instance tonight he's making some good movements. Actually, he makes one for the defender and then he pulls off for the second for himself, so he gets that little bit of space and uses his body really well. But people have got to get him around him quicker. Almiron, you've got to pick up the second balls. Fraser, you've got to get closer to him. And I think if they do that, that will really help Newcastle in the attack.
Here is Tariq Fosu, cross to Dominic Thompson, the left back for Brentford tonight. Used to be on Arsenal's books, never made a senior appearance at the Emirates. Brentford paid Arsenal £1 million to sign him at the start of last season. And here is Kieran Clark for Newcastle. Under pressure from Josh Da Silva, trying to play his way out of trouble. He's given it away to Canos. That was all thanks to the pressure of Da Silva, who'll now get it back. Crossing position, right-hand side for Brentford. That was sloppy defending from Newcastle. And a shot from Godos, and it's saved by Darlow. So close to the opening goal. And Kieran Clark's error started all of that. The pressure from Josh Da Silva, and Brentford so close. I think it's actually struck the woodwork.
It has, yeah. Josh Da Silva's pressing, and Thomas Park's going mad at the sideline. Go, because that's where they're at their most vulnerable, he feels. Newcastle holding on to the ball, they get dispossessed. Josh Da Silva gets to the byline and pulls it in, but he kind of, the shot comes in, it's kind of punches it into the ground, and it bounces up and hits the crossbar from Godos. it was a big opportunity. It should have been 1-0.
2 chances for Gonos in the game. His last goal, by the way, for his parent club Amiens, came against Marseille last season in France. I thought that was initially, in real time, I thought it was a save by Darlow, because he waved his arm as the shot was towards him, but he wouldn't have saved it. It would have gone in. It was the crossbar that kept that out.
You know what, Conor? I think the pitch didn't help. It really hasn't helped, because the passing from De Silva, it was like really, really bobbly. So then when it came to him, he kind of had to take it off the bobble, and he didn't get good contact on the ball, and then that's made it bounce up and hit the crossbar. So it was very lucky the pitch hasn't got in the favour of Brentford, but luckily for Newcastle.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Just sat up in front of him, and was it not for that bobble and the ensuing height that put on the shot, Brentford might well have been in front. And I know Callum Wilson's had those couple of half chances. To be fair, you couldn't really deny Brentford that they've been on top in these opening quarter of the match.
They have. They've looked in control, but to be fair though, Newcastle never have possession of the ball. It's something that the fans are pretty much used to. They have 30% at best, so they weren't beaten. I mean, Steve Bruce doesn't look concerned, because this is what he's used to. They hit teams on the counter attack. They stay in the game. They do need to improve. Like I said earlier, they need to get bodies around Callum Wilson when the ball gets up there, but they won't be overly stressed at this moment in time.
Yeah, I did see a stat actually last week. Well, Newcastle don't create many chances. We'll come back to that in a moment. Justice Silva's attacking for Brentford here down the right wing. Jamal Lewis gets back goal side of him. De Silva takes him on, confident, into the penalty area, hooks in a cross-come shot, which the goalkeeper got his fingertips to and puts it out for a corner. Josh De Silva's running the show. He's a joy to watch tonight.
What he's doing is he's peeling onto this right-hand side and causing an overload, because Jamal Lewis is bombing on at times, but he's such a handful. You know, he gets on this right-hand side now, does a little step over, tries to get to the byline, gets a cross in, and it was palmed over from Darlow. But standout player so far, De Silva. And like I said, he's carried this form on from last season. He's getting stronger and stronger, and I think it's his confidence really. And the England staff pulled me and said, look, this kid's going to be big. He's very, very talented.
Vitaly Janelt has gone across the German to take this corner. It'll be left-footed from the far side. It will be an outswinger. Here it comes, high and hanging, and a free header at the back post for Pinnock, and then it strikes one of the Brentford players on the face, and another let-off was a Sergi Canos. Rather than him head the ball, it just sort of hit him on the nose, but any clean connection there, he was unmarked, and Brentford let another chance go a begging. Newcastle fortunate not to be behind.
Wasteful there from Brentford, because it was a really well-worked corner. It was a long corner, and Pinnock's peeled off the back post, unmarked. He's got a free header, and he glances it back towards him, and he's got no one around him again, Yannick, and he just has to get it on contact, and he doesn't, and he heads it wide. And for me, that is a big moment and a big miss.
Right, these are all warning signs for Newcastle now. Brentford have hit the crossbar. They've pretty much missed a sitter there. How many more opportunities will Newcastle give them before Brentford do actually take the lead? And Steve Bruce's side need to get a lot tighter in defence. They win a free kick here on the halfway line. Longstaff wants to take it quickly. Closed down, though, by Marcus Fors in his attempts to do that. Jonjo Shelvey runs along the halfway line. It's never a great piece of body language when you see a player with both palms outstretched, and he's basically saying to the teammates, come on, give me a pass to play, give me a pass to play. But we've seen that a lot from Newcastle tonight, that they seem to be dissatisfied with the options available to them.
Well, I'm looking, and it's so predictable. It's really predictable. Fraser comes to feet. Oh, we're in.
Here's Callum Wilson, controls it just outside the penalty area. The ball bounced up high ahead of him, and in fact he was offside, so it's not going to count anyway as he shoots from distance, and it goes wide of the target. Brentford's offside trap springing to catch Callum Wilson offside, and the rain now beginning to fall very visibly here down on the pitch at Brentford.
I think that will affect the pitch. Looks like it's going to cut up. There's certain areas, and there were already players were slipping at the start of the game. And I actually think this will have a bit of an impact, because for that Callum Wilson chance he was offside, but it was Pinnock that actually slipped and allowed him to get in.
Yeah, for those listeners who might be joining us during this first half, they do play rugby as well here, so the pitch gets quite a battering, and you've got evidence of that. And now with the rain falling heavily on this side of West London, you can actually see the glisten of the water on the pitch with the floodlights as Jamal Lewis wins a throw-in for Newcastle near the halfway line. Thomas Frank, the 47-year-old Dane, the Brentford coach, standing right behind Lewis here. Never a professional player, Thomas Frank. He played at amateur level for his hometown club in Denmark. Made his name as a coach with Denmark's underage teams. Eventually became Brøndby's coach. That was in 2013. Moved to Brentford 2016. Initially he was the assistant here and then got the head coach job in 2018. Brentford, a club who've had a few close runs now at getting up to the Premier League. Now they've got the new stadium. It's a great platform to try and do it. Here comes DeAndre Yedlin down the right-hand side for Newcastle. Rolls it in front of Jacob Murphy. He tries to cross, takes a deflection, loops over the head of Callum Wilson. Brentford are able to clear it away. And Isaac Hayden gets possession back for the visitors on the halfway line. And under pressure from Marcus Fors, turns and rolls it back to the goalkeeper, Carl Darlow, behind him. 28 minutes on the clock. Brentford 0. Newcastle 0. Busy few days coming up on 5 Live. Later on this evening, we've got Arsenal against Manchester City in this competition. Tomorrow, Stoke against Tottenham is the 5:30 game. Everton against Manchester United at 8 o'clock. Those are the last 2 League Cup quarter-finals. Then we take a little break until Boxing Day. We've got Fulham against Southampton, 3 o'clock on Saturday, with an action-packed Sunday, 4 Premier League games. Leeds against Burnley, West Ham against Brighton, Liverpool against West Brom, and Wolves against Tottenham. That's all to come over the weekend here on 5 Live. The rain coming down, you can actually hear it rattling against the corrugated iron roof of this new Brentford Community Stadium. Dominic Thompson in possession on the far side, rolls it back to Mads Bech Sorensen. No real high press from Newcastle here as Thompson again gets it and rolls it back to Luke Daniels, wearing all green, away to our left-hand side. Ethan Pinnock, whose height has proved very effective in attacking set-piece positions in this game so far. I was going to say actually earlier on, Brentford had a chance on it to break off. A stat I saw last week that Newcastle don't create many chances, but they've actually been very efficient with the opportunities they do create. And the stat was that almost half of Newcastle's attempts on target this season, this is all in the Premier League, it ends up as a goal. The trouble is, they don't create many chances. But when they do, they've got a good record of putting them away. And much of that has been the efficiency of Callum Wilson, who's had a few half chances so far tonight, but not yet been presented with a gilt-edged opportunity.
Everything comes through Callum Wilson. He, like now in this instance, he starts to press off out of possession. In possession, they can ping it up to him. He holds it, he brings people in. He gets himself into the box. Everything runs through him. He's a quality player.
Here comes Fosu down the right-hand side for Brentford. Plays a 1-2 with Godos, and then good defending by Jamal Lewis to ensure that Fosu can't deliver the cross. It will, however, be a corner. Corner to Brentford. Right-hand side as they come forward, and Newcastle are forced once again to bring everyone back behind the ball.
Hopefully they'll defend this a little bit better, Newcastle, but credit to Brentford. They seem to be working the set plays really well. They've got some tall players. Sorensen, Pinnock in there.
Samuel Godos is the player who will take the corner. Mainly been used as a substitute in the Championship this season, in from the start in the League Cup tonight. Godos has got a short option available to him if he wants to roll it to Janelt. And the assistant just making sure the ball is inside the quadrant here by the corner flag. And they're trying to go right to the very, very, very edge of it, but as long as a little bit of the ball is over the line of that quadrant, it's okay. Here it comes, Janelt's delivery. Goalkeeper came early. Darlow, fisted punch away, and then Fosu on the edge of the penalty area hit him with his favoured left boot, the follow-up, and he puts it over the top. But Darlow's punch fell right for Fosu. It was another chance for Brentford.
It was. They were clearly lined up for the second phase, Brentford. At times, you always think put the ball in the box and people really want to win the first contact. It's actually a trick. They want you to come and win the first one as a defender, and then you pick up the second. You had 3 players on the edge of the 18-yard box, and it fell to Fosu there, but it was on his left foot, and the volley in the wet pitch probably didn't help him. But that was, for me, a second phase corner build-up.
Tariq Fosu, who has scored 1 goal for Brentford. It came last season against Sheffield Wednesday. It was back in March, just before everything shut down. Tariq Fosu, who joined Brentford from Oxford last January. A free kick has been awarded to the home side with Jacob Murphy. The string offside over there. So we've played over half an hour now, and this remains a close quarter-final, 0-0. Remember, one way or the other we get an outcome tonight, and no extra time. It could go straight to penalties. Now, Brentford come out of defence with Mads Beck Sorensen. Has a little look up. Crossfield ball. Perfectly delivered for Tariq Fosu. Under pressure now from Ryan Fraser. Goes straight back to the goalkeeper. Nothing fancy. Doesn't take any chances. Luke Daniels to Ethan Pinnock. Now Fosu. With a step over to try and elude Ryan Fraser. It worked out really well. They've got a confidence, these Brentford players, as Godos wins a throw-in off Jamal Lewis.
What it is because Newcastle are playing a 4-4-2. They've actually got the spare player in the midfield, Brentford, and it's either De Silva, it's either Godos or Marcondes coming into those little pocket spaces, and John Joe Shelby doesn't know whether to go. Longstaff doesn't know whether to go, and it's really causing them issues, and the confidence is growing in the Brentford side.
Jamal Lewis wins a header, but all that does is give Brentford another throw-in, this time 10 yards further up the field. Newcastle, who are 12th in the Premier League at the moment. I guess, you look at everything that's gone on in the club. They had that COVID outbreak. Their match against Aston Villa was called off. They had to close the training ground for a period, and a number of players, including Jamal Lascelles and Alan Saint-Maximin, not only have had COVID, and we've seen this in various clubs where a player will have COVID, he'll be out for 2 weeks and come back again, but apparently those two are suffering from the long-term effects of COVID and still aren't right. So there's been a lot going on in the background, and I guess if you had said to Steve Bruce at the start of the campaign, look, you could be in 12th, you could have had 5 wins from the first 13 Premier League games, I think he probably would have taken that at the start of the season.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, like you said, the COVID issues, it's just terrible, isn't it? And the repercussions have been for those players is just mass fatigue, and they can't bounce back from it. So we hope they do come back healthy sooner rather than later. But in terms of Steve Bruce, he can only work with what he's got. And in terms of points, and they're in this position now in this cup competition, you're right, he would be happy with it. But as Newcastle fans in the club, they will want more, but so will Steve Bruce. But he's actually on a tightrope in essence in terms of budget, recruitment. So he's doing the best that he can, but of course he and the fans will want more.
Federico Fernandez, another of the Newcastle contingent who tested positive for coronavirus during that outbreak. He did come back and play, but you could see still suffering with fatigue, taken off at half-time against Fulham at the weekend. Here's Ryan Fraser into a shooting position. Great shot and tipped over the crossbar. Luke Daniels putting it out for a corner, and that is the best chance Newcastle have created in the game. It has taken them until 10 minutes before half-time, and it's just a direct ball. That's what you were talking about, Karen, getting Fraser into more central positions, and he hit it well. Good save.
Absolutely. The pass, though, from John Joe Shelby. I talked about that quarterback role. He's the one that sees the runs. He's got the vision, and he can execute it. A right-footed pass over the top to Ryan Fraser, cut in from the left-hand side, running in towards goal. He chested it down, and then on the half-volley, smashed it with his right foot. And it was a great save from Daniels. It was right at him, but that's better from Newcastle.
Best chance Newcastle have created. Good save from Daniels. Shelby takes the corner from the right-hand side. Daniels comes right, fist punches it, and then they try to follow up, and Brentford relieved to clear it away out of the penalty area, and it's going to be a throw into Newcastle. Newcastle have suddenly just shifted up a gear here. It's a game that could do with a goal to liven things up. 5 Live and BBC Sounds in the Carabao Cup tonight, the League Cup quarter-final. Carl Darlow's been relieved to see Brentford hit the crossbar down one end, and Brentford at the other end relieved that their goalkeeper Luke Daniels made a fine save there. I mean, it was over his head, but he still had to acrobatically lunge to tip it over the crossbar. Jamal Lewis controls in a crossing position left-hand side. Fosu tries to get close to him, sends Lewis back towards where he came from. Fosu's done great there to win the ball back for Brentford. For a guy who's not normally a right back, that was expert defending. And now Josh De Silva will wriggle and jiggle and try and get out of a tight little corner here. He's penned in, but look at him, little swing of the hips, little drag back. It's brilliant from Josh De Silva. And we've been praising him right from kickoff. He's been the best player on the park. Everything he does just oozes class.
Best player by a country mile. Brentford are really lucky to have him, but I tell you what, there'll be a lot of Premier League clubs looking at him in terms of young, his age. Technically, he's just there, he's composed. He's nearly in his 18-yard box, and he's doing a little Cruyff and stepping over because he knows he's got composure. He knows he can work the ball really well. Top player, like I said all evening. I'm probably boring myself and everyone else. Quality player.
Yeah, no, he has been outstanding tonight in that he has stood out ahead of all the other players on the pitch, has been head and shoulders above. Brentford fans probably won't think about it this way, but You know, you look at what they did with Ollie Watkins. You bring him in for a small fee, you sell him for a huge fee. That could be the sort of business plan for the likes of Josh Da Silva, the likes of Marcus Fors. Obviously, they've got Ivan Toney on the bench, who they brought in for 5-6 million in the summer. Has been an absolute revelation. He's got more goals than any other player in the top 4 leagues of English football this season. And that, remember, is in reserve for Brentford tonight. As well as they're playing here, they do have Toney on the bench, who might come on against his old club Newcastle. Kieran Clark has done well here, up against Marcus Fors. Plays it to Longstaff, back to Hayden on the edge of the penalty area. Ultimately back to the goalkeeper Carl Darlow, and Newcastle passed their way out of trouble with DeAndre Yedlin into John Joe Shelby. Had a look up. For a moment he considered the long ball for Fraser, but instead he's given it back to Yedlin, who's made a good burst here and gets up level with the edge of the Brentford penalty area. Right hand side as Newcastle come forward. Jacob Murphy sort of slipped as the ball came to him. Recovers his composure, gives it back to John Joe Shelby. Chance for him to cross, drills it in, low and hard, controlled by Almiron. Just wouldn't sit up for him though. Pinnock is able to clear away, and it's become a counter-attacking opportunity now for Brentford. Newcastle had committed a lot of bodies forward. Here comes the impressive Josh Da Silva down the right-hand side, gets away from Callum Wilson, comes infield of Jamal Lewis. Good tackle on him by Sean Longstaff. Newcastle give it away cheaply in the midfield though. Canos is adjudged, well no, he's adjudged to have been fouled by Longstaff. Longstaff, who lost the ball, was clearly frustrated, pulled on Sergi Canos, and that will be a free kick to Brentford inside the Newcastle half. Still 0-0, Karen Carney.
I don't know what happened there, Connor. It was end to end. It was like a basketball game. You know, Brentford have a go, Newcastle have a go, Brentford have a go. Game's starting to open up now in the last 5 minutes, but I was more pleased there with Newcastle because the opportunity they had, they actually put 5 players forward. They actually went for it, and it was a threat. But again, just cross the ball. Don't overcomplicate it. There's bodies into the box. Just get it in there with good deliveries. And again, you cut in field. Murphy, just get your right foot, whip it in. He's got fantastic delivery. We've seen that in the Premier League. Just give the centre forward an opportunity.
Godos is standing over this. Janelt 2. It looks like it'll be Godos to float it into the Newcastle penalty area. Sorensen has come forward, tries to win the header. It's going to be a corner. Corner to Brentford. Another attacking set-piece position with 5 minutes to go in normal time until the break.
They have looked like they've got something up their pocket, Brentford, in terms of training ground, set plays. They obviously feel there's an opportunity here and a weakness, but so far Newcastle have been very resolute in defending them. But we'll see what they do now. They've sent 2 out there, Brentford, which they have done in all the corners, just to drag 2 Newcastle players out there to give more space.
Yes, and 3 Brentford players on the edge of the penalty area around about the D mark as well. As Newcastle brought all 11 back into the penalty area. Here it comes, good delivery. Pinnock again, the obvious target. And Almiron with a big hoof of a left boot just wallops it down the field. Anywhere will do for Newcastle as they clear their lines. That's really good defending from Dominic Thompson, holding off Callum Wilson. Rolls it short for Josh Da Silva near the centre circle. Remember, 6 changes in the Brentford team, but they look so well drilled. Everyone knows their role they've got to play tonight. Silva on the halfway line again. He's got that swagger about him. A little unnecessary step over there, just to say to John Joe Shelby, I'm not intimidated by you. And then he gives it back to Ethan Pinnock, who just wants to Silva on the ball again. And then a risky crossfield pass, but he got away with it. Josh Da Silva back to Mads Sorensen. Brentford come over the halfway line, and then Thompson, who did so well a moment ago, is a sloppy pass, and he gives possession away. Jacob Murphy, direct ball forward, looking for Almiron, cut out by Sorensen. Ball goes out of play on the far side for a throw-in. Could still go either way this quarter-final, 0-0.
You just don't want to get sloppy now, Brentford. You know, you've stayed in the game, couple of wayward passes there, keep your standards high. You know, because Newcastle will punish you. We've talked about how low in possession they have, but they're very clinical when they get their moments.
Canos with a lovely little back heel there. Godos to Marcondes on the far side. Disappointed cross though from him, and they had worked 5 players up into the penalty area. A better delivery there would have had a good chance of picking out someone. As it is, Newcastle give it away cheaply in the midfield again, and Sergi Canos will attack down the left-hand side for Brentford under the bright beaming floodlights of this new Brentford Community Stadium, the 17,000 capacity stadium. But no cross again from Canos. Newcastle have got it out, and it will be a Newcastle throw. Right full-back position for the visitors. 0-0 for now. I think Thomas Frank will be pleased so far. Probably should have scored, given the opportunities. Canos with a header was a glorious chance. He also had the opportunity that hit the crossbar. It will be no surprise for Brentford to be taking a lead into the changing room at half-time, and I'm sure he'll feel if they keep this up and keep playing to these standards, Brentford can claim another Premier League scalp. It would be their 4th top-tier club to knock out of this competition this season. By the way, Newcastle have not come up against a Premier League team themselves in this competition. They played non-top flight teams in the 2nd, 3rd and 4th rounds. Last time a team, by the way, from the top flight of English football got to this stage of the competition having not played another top flight team and went through was Norwich back in the 80s, which had a certain Steve Bruce at the heart of their defence, and they went on to win the League Cup that season. Oh, here's a chance. Newcastle are in. Callum Wilson into the penalty area. Rides one challenge. Out comes Daniels. He's done enough to veer him wide. It was a big chance. Ryan Fraser shoots in low and cleared away by Tariq Fosu. Well, you just said a moment there, Karen, that they better not switch off. Brentford nearly created a mistake there. That could have given Newcastle the lead.
Again, Sorensen outstanding. Callum Wilson was through from a mistake from Brentford, and he's just thinking he's in. He's about to pull the trigger, and he takes an extra touch because Sorensen kind of slides in and puts him off and steers him wide, and then Daniels does enough to keep pushing him wider and wider, and Steve Bruce then has his hands in his head thinking we've just missed a golden opportunity, and they absolutely did, Newcastle.
He just couldn't pull the trigger, Callum Wilson, and as Karen says, it's that just presence and pressure of Sorensen. He thought he could just wriggle away from him, but Sorensen refused to be shrugged off, and Daniels came thrusting out as well. Wilson tried to go around him and ended up going too wide. It's a big opportunity for Newcastle, probably their 3rd decent chance of this first half, but 0-0 the scoreline remains. This is 5 Live and BBC Sounds, also live on 5 Live Final Score tonight on the iPlayer and on the BBC Sport website. Kieran Clark has possession, 10 yards inside his own half, rolls it short for Jamal Lewis. Lewis has been a regular in the Newcastle team since joining from Norwich, and Fraser tried to backheel it for Lewis there. Fosu intercepted it. The ball goes out for a throw into Newcastle, taken quickly. Jamal Lewis to Fraser, back to Clark again, and that will be it. Nothing added on for stoppages at the end of the first half, so chances at both ends. Newcastle relieved to see their crossbar rattle rather than the net furl. Callum Wilson with Newcastle's really good opportunity towards the end of the half, but 0-0 for now, Karen Carney.
Yeah, I mean, I would say Brentford had the better opportunities. I still think Newcastle had those 1 or 2 moments, Callum Wilson, but good defending from Sorensen in 2 instances. But I'd say 0-0's fair going into it, because they just haven't really grabbed the game by the scruff of the neck. I think Brentford, you can see there's been a few changes, even though they don't look like they feel phased or anything like that, but still the rhythm's not quite there in the final third.
Well, you'd imagine they'll both go for it in the second half. This is knockout club football, and remember, Ivan Toney, top scorer in the Championship, is still up the sleeve of Thomas Frank. Will we see the former Newcastle striker against his old club in the second half? For now, Brentford 0, Newcastle 0.
Connor, it's interesting that you pick up on that point, that they're going to go for it, both of them, in the second half. There is a place in the semi-finals of the League Cup at stake, because on social media, Lee said, always amazes me that clubs like Newcastle, who haven't won a trophy in years, play cup games like they're friendlies. They should dominate and play with some intensity. Pete asked, why are we huffing and puffing? It doesn't matter what level you're playing at. Having the slowest midfield in living memory is going to make things difficult. Wayne says, zero passion from Newcastle. What am I missing? Are you surprised that it isn't a more intense performance from them against Brentford, or is it that Brentford are stopping them from getting any kind of fluency, Karen?
Yeah, it feels like it's a bit of a belief for me. I don't know what you think, Karen. It's like they've come here, they're a Premier League club, they're playing against lower league opposition, but they don't have that confidence. They're not imposing the game, and at times it feels Newcastle are just going through the motions.
Well, look, I think if you're looking for an intensity in possession, this isn't the team, because Newcastle haven't had possession in the Premier League for how long? That's how they are. You can't just turn it on against a Brentford side. You have to consistently do it week in, week out, and they don't. They have 30% possession, hit on the counter and wait for mistakes, and they're very clinical in that. And it's the same game plan today. But you're right. As a fan, I would love them to come and impose themselves and say, yeah, we're Premier League Newcastle and you're trying to get there, Brentford, in your Championship, and this is the levels, this is what you've got to get to. But that hasn't been the case. And I've been a little bit disappointed. Ryan Fraser, play forward more. You know, you've got the opportunity to play forward more. I'm a winger myself. I don't like my wingers playing backwards. I don't like the fact that there's not crosses coming to the box and you've got one of the best headers in Callum Wilson in there. Give him the opportunity. So I get frustrated as well watching it. However, it's very easy for me to stand on the sideline when Steve Bruce is down in the manager and he knows his players, what he's got available, and he probably thinks we've got a lot of games, we'll ease up the pressure and we'll nick one on the counter-attack.
And we also had that one about the midfield as well. And you were making the point in commentary, Karen, that Newcastle are outnumbered in midfield now. How do they deal with that?
Well, what they're having to do is they're having to drop Almiron slightly back, and he's trying to deal with them. But what Josh Da Silva is, he's going into wide areas and he's pulling Longstaff and Shelvey apart, and they can't get near him. And then he's a good player in itself, so adding that in, it's causing slight issues. And then it pulls Fraser back, and it just causes defences issues. And then you can't get numbers higher up. So I don't think they'll change in terms of what they're doing, Newcastle. Like I said, they'll be happy, I think, in terms of they're still 0-0, and that's always been their game plan. But for me, I'd like to see more, and I can understand why Newcastle fans do get slightly frustrated. But it's a big 45 minutes because I want to see now out of which teams who wants to be in that semi-final more, because cup football is about passion and desire, and who wants to be in that draw.
I'm sure we'll find out in the second half. Brentford against Newcastle. It is goalless at the break. We'll be back with Karen Carney and Conor McNamara for the second half of that game. We're going to have some more of the sports headlines in just a few minutes after the BBC News with Alison Hughes.
On digital, BBC Sounds, Smart.
lost 5 of their last 7 league games, and obviously they are at the moment, from our media point of view, the crisis club among the big clubs, aren't they? Mikel Arteta in the match programme tonight, he says what is clear, we can't go into tonight's game feeling sorry for ourselves, and I suppose in a cup match, whether it brings them a bit of a release away from the struggles and the pressures of the league, but of course they're up against Manchester City, who've got such a good record in this tournament, so we'll see. And the other thing I need to tell you is it is grim up North London tonight. It's absolutely pouring down. It feels like the clouds have descended on the Emirates Stadium. It is a miserable, wet evening.
Yeah, probably matching the mood of any supporters who would be allowed in there should they not be in Tier 4. Look, for Arsenal, we already know Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang is going to be missing. Is there any suggestion as to what Mikel Arteta does in terms of team strength for this one?
Well, I think the thing he's got to do, and I wonder whether Gabriel Martinelli might get a run out tonight, because he looked like such an exciting young talent, didn't he, last season, and then hasn't been able to play at all this season until he came on as a substitute at the weekend at Goodison for the last 20 minutes or so. So they certainly need someone to lift them. It's asking a lot of a young man like Martinelli to do that. Still only 19 years old, but I think what really they need to do, Mikel Arteta needs to do, is start getting the best out of his players. I think that's been the most disappointing thing for me, in that after all of that early promise over the course of the first months, and winning the FA Cup, of course, beating Manchester City in the semi-final at Wembley when Aubameyang scored both of the goals. I think what's most disappointing this season is that certainly in the league and of late in the league, he's simply not been getting the best out of the players.
As for Manchester City, though, as you said, this is a competition that they traditionally perform exceptionally well in, as does Raheem Sterling particularly. But the person there's question marks about is Gabriel Jesus, and it poses an interesting question for Pep Guardiola, because with Sergio Aguero being out injured, and with Jesus having missed last weekend's game with a jaw injury, does he risk him if he's fit? Does he bring him back in if he's not quite fit? I know they've played without either Aguero or Jesus before now, haven't they?
Yeah, that's right. And I think this cup has been so important to them. And they're looking at the club as a whole have won it 5 times in the last 7 seasons. Under Guardiola, they've won it 3 years in a row. And he's always picked strong teams in this competition, and he's particularly picked strong teams the further down the line you go. And here they are, just 1 game away from the semi-final. I would expect it'll be strong, and as we know, I think there's been a slight tweak, hasn't there, with Manchester City this season, in that they have become very difficult to score against. They've conceded 1 goal in their last 8 matches, the goal that they conceded at home to West Brom in the 1-1 draw last week. Other than that, 7 clean sheets in their last 8. So that currently is the strength of this Manchester City team. And we know that one of the weaknesses of Arsenal is that they've struggled to score. So it's a really tough hurdle for Manchester City tonight, because I am expecting them to field a very strong team.
John Murray, for now, thank you very much. We'll be back with John Murray and Rob Green for that 8 o'clock kickoff at the Emirates. It's Arsenal against Manchester City, and we will be back shortly to the Brentford Community Stadium for the second half of Brentford Newcastle. No goals as yet. And then we're on again early tomorrow for the second night of quarterfinals in the EFL Cup. Stoke against Tottenham is the 5:30 kickoff. Spurs currently 6th in the Premier League. They have 3 games between now and the end of the year. So what kind of team is Jose Mourinho going to choose? Could it reflect the teams he's put out in the Europa League? Or will it be similar to a Premier League lineup? Or maybe a mix?
I think a mixture. I think clearly some players, they need to play, and they deserve to play. And from the ones that are playing more time, there are others where we don't have great options to make changes, and we have to keep them. But of course, I will try to give a little bit of a rest to all 3 of them. It's a cup game. It's a game of go to semi-finals or watch the semi-finals at home on TV. We have to go with a positive attitude and try to win it.
That was Jose Mourinho talking ahead of Stoke against Tottenham in their Carabao Cup quarter-final. Everton against Manchester United is the later kickoff. You'll be able to follow both of those on 5 Live Sport. Coming up between our 2 matches this evening, you're going to hear an exclusive interview with Anthony Joshua, He announced today that he's giving a substantial donation to amateur boxing clubs across the country. Here's just a snippet of what you can expect.
I looked at the list of, sports that the government have backed, and I think the government have done an amazing job through such a hard time. But it was just a situation where I then thought it's up to us as professionals to take lead as well and support these grassroots gyms. And hopefully it raises the eyebrows of some people in power, and they think, you know what this kid's saying is right, because, you've got two of the best heavyweights in the world right now in Tyson Fury and myself, with a mega fight being set up for 2021. One of the biggest competitions in the country since the World Cup that have come from grassroots sports.
Joshua also says that a heavyweight unification bout with Tyson Fury could be what the UK needs in current tough times. No date has yet been reached for a 2021 fight. In rugby union, the RFU says that 1 in 5 professional rugby union players in England suffered concussion during the 2018-19 season. For the 8th consecutive season, concussion was the most commonly reported match injury. Meanwhile, Leicester Tigers Boxing Day Premiership match against Newcastle Falcons has been cancelled due to a COVID outbreak at the Leicester club. And at the Battle of the Brits tennis event, Andy Murray beat Cameron Norrie in straight sets. Earlier, British number 1 Dan Evans beat Liam Brody in straight sets. Remember, you can listen to our Carabao Cup commentary this evening alongside the final score graphics and the video printer if you press the red button or go to BBC iPlayer or the BBC Sport app and click on 5 Live final score. Goalless so far between Brentford and Newcastle, with Arsenal against Manchester City still to come, and there are EFL kickoffs later on this evening as well that you can keep across if you follow the video printer. On social media, Danny said, "Stop going backwards. This has been painful. No desire whatsoever. Stray balls just getting watched. Longstaff looks constantly shattered. Jogged the whole half. May as well be in defence. He's that deep." Angel says, "Painful first 45 minutes. Every throw-in we get in the attacking third somehow ends back to Darlow. Lewis has killed every attack where the ball's gone to him. Fraser's looked decent. Good ball into the box and shot." And Stocky said, "To think I spend thousands following this dross about." One positive, he said, "My tea's ready." Also, the fact that potentially a positive in Brentford being in Tier 4, which is a game he doesn't need to travel to this evening. Newcastle then, goalless against Brentford at half-time. Remember, this one will go to penalties if it is all square at 90 minutes. Taking you through the second half at the Brentford Community Stadium, Karen Carney and Conor McNamara.
Thanks very much, Kelly. So the Newcastle players were sent out early from the break. Brentford's team just striding out of the tunnel down below us here at this new Brentford Community Stadium. Interesting to see if there'll be any changes in personnel over the break. Certainly none for Newcastle. And it doesn't look like there's going to be any changes for Brentford either. Ivan Toney down there must be itching to get on against a club who signed him as a young striker from Northampton. Never really got an opportunity at St James's Park. But since he's left there, he has become a goal machine. Made 2 substitute appearances in the Premier League as a Newcastle player. Played in 2 games in this competition, the League Cup, but that was it. But he has been a revelation this season for Brentford. So we're about to get back underway for the second half. 0-0 after an opening 45 minutes in which both teams had chances. However, we haven't had a break in the deadlock yet. Brentford will play from right to left as we look down in this second half. The red and white striped shirts, the black shorts, the black socks. Newcastle in their change strip, the luminous yellow. Luke Daniels is the Brentford goalkeeper. Back four of Tariq Fosu, Ethan Pinnock, Mads Sorensen and Dominic Thompson. Then in midfield, Josh De Silva and Vitaly Yanet, with Emiliano Marcondes, Saman Godos and Sergi Canos. And then Marcus Fors, the striker up front. Canos had a really good opportunity. Godos has had 2 chances in the game. Here comes Ryan Fraser. First attack of the second half for Newcastle. Behind him is Jamal Lewis. Left foot across into the centre. Finds the forehead of Callum Wilson, but he can't get his header on target. And it goes wide of the far top corner. Goal kick to Brentford. Karen.
Bright start from Newcastle. Everything we spoke about in the first half they needed to do. Get the ball out wide. Fraser set it back. And the cross came in then, and it gave Callum Wilson the opportunity. He rose up and was in between the 2 centre-halves. Jamal Lewis's ball was good, had a bit of pace on it. He just didn't get the direction, Wilson, but that's more like it from Newcastle.
Here come Brentford. Marcondes into the Newcastle half for the first time since half-time. We've got plenty of players forward here. Attempted cross from Canos on the right-hand side is blocked away. Goes out for a Brentford throw, right full-back position for Fosu. Gives it to Josh De Silva, who was the player of the match in the first half. And here he is on the halfway line. decent pass to Mads Beck Sorensen. Brentford come down the left-hand side. Godos has got Thompson outside him on the left-hand side. Godos gives it back to the halfway line. Back to Sorensen. Left-footed ball forward, down a channel for Marcus Forss to scamper after, but alert defending by Isaac Hayden. I interviewed Steve Bruce last week about Hayden playing centre-half, and he said that as a youth player, he used to play centre-back all the time, so he's used to that position, even though we know him better as a midfielder in senior football. Fosu, crossing position for Brentford on the right-hand side, sends it into a busy penalty area. Cut out by Kieran Clark. Newcastle glad to get it away, but Brentford remain on the attack. They've got it thrown in on the far side. Karen Carney.
Fosu's been really well defensively, but I really like him getting forward. I think he can really cause a threat down that right-hand side, getting the crosses into the box. Just need to see more of Brentford centre-forward getting into it for us. He's been a little bit quiet. I really want to see him get involved because I know how much quality he has.
Yes, it's true. The better chances have fallen to the attacking midfield players rather than the centre forward for the home side. Thompson on the halfway line under pressure from Jacob Murphy. Retreats back to Sorensen. Decent ball down the left wing. Attempted flick in by Sanan Godos, but challenged by DeAndre Yedlin, and that'll be a Brentford throw just in front of the Brentford dugout.
There's a bit more pressing from Newcastle in the opening couple of minutes of the second half. I feel like Steve Bruce has gone in and said, look, too passive. You know, they're a good side, Brentford, very good side, but you can't give them more time.
Jacob Murphy over the top. Callum Wilson chases after it. Sweeper keeper Luke Daniels comes out of the penalty area and clears away with his right boot. Straight to Jonjo Shelvey, though. And it's Callum Wilson on the edge of the D. Ryan Fraser to his left-hand side. Lewis has made a great run from left back. Here he is. Low ball into the centre. It didn't have the power. And the referee blows the whistle anyway, and it's going to be a free kick to Brentford. But that was more like it from Newcastle. As soon as they won the ball, they were rapidly on the counter-attack.
That's it, the intensity. They've really stepped it up in the opening few minutes. Pressing more, winning it back. Getting the ball forward quickly into Wilson. Passing it off him, getting done down the sides. It's more like the Premier League side should be in terms of intensity and intent.
Yeah, they look a bit more interested in this second half to Newcastle. Remember, we're going to get some drama one way or the other here. Either one of these teams is going to score and the chance to go through to the semi-final in 90 minutes, or at the end of 90 minutes, if it's still level, we will have a penalty shootout immediately here. So one way or the other, we're going to get a story over the next quarter of an hour or so here on 5 Live. Free kick to Brentford. Daniels wearing all green, prepares to take it. There's patience about him as he pauses and then eventually rolls it short for Ethan Pinnock. Pinnock's ball up towards the centre circle, picks out Emiliano Marcondes. 21st appearance of the season in all competitions for him. Josh Da Silva under pressure from Almiron feeds it to Mads Beck Sorensen, and Brentford come over the halfway line. Dominic Thompson, first touch, veers him infield away from Jacob Murphy. Da Silva involved again, fouled by Longstaff. Free kick to Brentford.
It's one way of stopping him, fouling him.
That's about all Newcastle's defensive midfield have been able to do to Josh Da Silva. A man who turned 22 in October, has been a joy to watch in this game. Just, you know, does the simple things well, but also has got something about him. Almost a bit of the kind of Yaya Tourés or something. There's this ability to go from a standing start past a player and surge his team on the attack. Shelvey with his studs prods the ball back towards Darlow, and it just about had enough pace on it to steer clear of the danger of Marcus Forss, and Darlow clears it out for a throw in on the far side. 0-0 on 5 Live for the BBC in this League Cup quarter-final. Here he comes again. Josh Da Silva surging forward for the halfway line. Crossfield ball is cut out by DeAndre Yedlin. Chance now for Newcastle to come on the counter-attack, but Yedlin runs into some busy traffic in midfield. Longstaff's pass is great, though, and here is Jacob Murphy into the penalty area. Oh, he lost his footing just as he wanted to shoot. He'd taken 2 good touches. He was holding off Dominic Thompson. Now, was there a bobble there or what? But he just seemed, the legs just went out from underneath him. An opportunity goes up begging for Newcastle as Brentford try to counter-attack down the other end, and it goes out for a throw-in. Another chance, Karen.
It was. I think it was fantastic defending from Thompson, if I'm honest. The recovery run, the way that he kind of nudged and used his body to his advantage, and it really pushed Murphy off the ball. It was a wasted opportunity in the end because, again, Steve Bruce head in his hands thinking we've missed a fantastic chance there. But I have to commend the recovery run of Thompson. Fantastic.
Da Silva Out to Tariq Fosu, midway inside the Newcastle half, taking on Ryan Fraser. And playing it left-footed and just too high for Godos. He's a right-footed player, Fosu. And he just put too much on that crossfield ball. It was the right idea, it was the right pass to play. It just needed more accuracy, and Thomas Frank just down below us. And just a little clap of encouragement for his team there. He's enjoying what he sees so far. The long-haired Danish coach. Throw in for DeAndre Yedlin, the right full-back position for Newcastle. 0-0 it remains. We've played 7 minutes now in the second half. We'll be at Arsenal against Manchester City from 8 o'clock. There's also a couple of games down the leagues tonight. Doncaster plays Shrewsbury, Grimsby against Bradford City as well. This is the League Cup quarter-final, Brentford Community Stadium. 0-0 for now. Free kick to Newcastle, which Shelvey takes short for Sean Longstaff. And Jamal Lewis on the halfway line, far side of the pitch from us. Newcastle, who've got that tough run of games. City, Liverpool and Leicester in the next 3 games. For Brentford, they travel to Cardiff on Boxing Day. Then it's 3 home games in a row here. They host Bournemouth, Bristol City, and then they host Middlesbrough, which is in the FA Cup. Ethan Pinnock has the ball midway inside his own half. You can see the markings of the rugby pitch, which they also play at this stadium, just visible. And he was standing there. Fosu, who turned 25 in November, rolls it over the halfway line to Godos, and then he has somehow committed a foul, or has he come back from an offside position perhaps? Either way, free kick to Newcastle, and they take it quickly. Steve Bruce's side, who came out of the traps like a greyhound at the start of the second half, but have just retreated back into this cautious stance that they had for much of the first half. Clark has it near the halfway line. Low ball to the shaven-headed John Joe Shelvey. Back to Isaac Hayden. No pressure on him. Clark makes himself available. Newcastle played over the halfway line. It's not very inspiring stuff at the moment, all in the central third. Clark plays the ball out of play for a Brentford throw. This isn't great for Newcastle now, and Brentford, I just see discussions down in the technical area now. Thomas Frank speaking with some of his backroom staff. He must be tempted to throw Ivan Toney on here, Karen.
Yeah, I still think it's a little bit early. I think it's only 53 minutes. I think so far they've been really good defensively, really good shape. You know, you don't just kick the ball out of play for no reason. I think it's credit to them in their shape, but attacking wise they might need that little bit of edge, but I think it's still a little bit early yet.
Absolutely. If Newcastle aren't firing in all cylinders, so much of that is because of the good play from Brentford. Here comes Josh De Silva again now, attacking the edge of the penalty area. Got us to his right-hand side. Fosu up from right back. He's got 5 teammates in the penalty area. Couple of step-overs from Fosu. Drills it in low. Darlow on the front post. Scrambles it away just about. Newcastle clear. That's another big opportunity for Brentford. Excellent work from Tariq Fosu down the right-hand side.
Again, Hayden was in the right place at the right time. Fosu got in the penalty area, double step over and absolutely smashed the ball in. I think he was looking for force just to come in, but Hayden, right place, ricocheted it off and it's gone out for a throw-in. But really like the intricate play, the quick feet of Fosu. Like I said, great in defence, but I love his attacking prowess.
Yeah, that was really good. He turned Jamal Lewis inside out there, then he drilled in a low cross which did hit the arm, just in the replay here, hit the arm of Isaac Hayden. Remember, no VAR in the League Cup, but they would have been interested in that.
I think it hit the body, his other body part first, then his arm, and his arms were right in. He couldn't do nothing about it. It was hit with that much force.
Sorensen with a real long throw from the far side. Darlow comes and punches, and it's going to be a goal kick. For a moment, thought it might have been a corner. Goal kick to Newcastle. And I'm with you, Carmen. I don't think it should have been a penalty, but this day and age, you never know. Anytime it hits the foot of a defender in the arm of a defender in the penalty area, you're always wondering what interpretation VAR will have of it. What have you spotted, Karen?
Well, Steve Bruce I think he's had enough. He's sent Dwight to go and get Dwight Gale, to go and get warm, because they need something else up top. I think, Brentford should be 2-0 up, really. They've had good opportunities. They look defensively solid. So he's got to change something, and he thinks bring him on.
Here
Gale.
Come Newcastle. Ryan Fraser to Almiron on the left wing. Newcastle playing left to right as we look down. Sean Longstaff now will turn and give it back to the halfway line. Safety first for Steve Bruce's team. Brentford are preparing a change as well. Christian Norgard, another of their Danish connection, getting ready to come on. He's just back from an ankle injury. He's a midfielder. cross from the left-hand side for Lewis is too close to Luke Daniels, and the Brentford goalkeeper commands his penalty area well. Bowls it out for Vitaly Janelt. Short ball to Emiliano Marcondes. Brentford passing their way up to the halfway line. Sergi Canos gets a touch. Back again to Marcondes. And he just puts his studs on the ball and brings play to a complete standstill inside his own half. No pressure on him. Rolls a soft pass to Saman Ghoddos. And over to the far side to Fosu. No real high press from Newcastle. Fraser now comes to put pressure on Fosu. Brentford come back into the middle with Sorensen to the near touchline, their left, and Dominic Thompson. Murphy puts pressure on him, and back to Mansbeck Sorensen once again. Bit of a staring match at the moment now. Sorensen to Kenos. Just inside the Newcastle half, running along the halfway line from left to right. Lays it back to Ethan Pinnock inside the Brentford half. This is Josh De Silva playing with the head up, looking, searching, scanning to see if any passes are an offer forward. But instead will retreat and in fact go all the way back to goalkeeper Luke Daniels, away to our right hand side. Game just going into a little bit of a lull here as we reach the hour mark, just over 30 minutes to play. Sorensen goes long and searching down the left channel. Hayden had a head start on Marcus Fors, gets there first and puts it out for a throw. Throw into Brentford, attacking position down the left hand side. Arsenal against Manchester City to come at 8 o'clock. And just a little flag for you on Christmas Eve. Question of Sports special on 5 Live. Mark Chapman presenting with Matt Dawson and Phil Tufnell. You can listen to that. Bit of fun and frolics. 6 p.m. Christmas Eve here on 5 Live. Now, Sorensen has got a long throw in him. He's come over to the touchline where there's a strategically placed towel on the little wall there. And he's given the ball a wipe, and here it comes. Arches the back, powers it in, really good distance into the 6-yard box, headed away by Callum Wilson, who was back helping out the Newcastle defence. And then Ghoddos tries to follow up with a half volley, but he didn't catch it sweetly at all. It just lofted comfortably into the arms of the Newcastle goalkeeper Carl Darlow, who clears it straight down the centre of the pitch, gives away possession. Jarek Fosu has it for Brentford on the halfway line. Tries to wriggle away from the attentions of John Joe Shelvey. Jacob Murphy tackles him. Ball goes out of play. Last touch off the Brentford man. And that is going to be a throw-in to Newcastle. Here comes the first change of the evening. So Christian Nargaard will come on in place of Vitaly Janelt. I have to say, I feel we've mentioned his name less often than any of the Brentford players. He's not quite been in the match as much as his teammates tonight, Janelt's, Karen.
No, he hasn't, and he's just been replaced light for light, really. Nargaard's just gone into that holding mid position again. Hasn't really changed for them. I think it's just a personnel change.
Semi-finals of the League Cup coming up the first week in January. April 25th is the date of the League Cup final this year. Draw for those semis will take place tomorrow evening after the Manchester United-Everton game. It's at Goodison, isn't it? Everton against Manchester United. So Christian Norgaard, who has now played as many games in this competition, the League Cup this season, as he has in the Championship. He's had ankle injury problems. He's on supporting Josh De Silva in the middle of the midfield. The board is getting prepared for the Newcastle change to come. It will be Dwight Gale coming on presently. Exactly an hour played at the Brentford Community Stadium. Longstaff takes the free kick forward towards Kieran Clark, who is up on the edge of the Brentford penalty area, immediately repelled backwards, back with Longstaff on the halfway line. Good pressure from Marcus Fors, and Longstaff has to turn and retreat to goalkeeper Carl Darlow behind him. He plays a long ball out towards the left wing. It was intended for Fraser. Fraser knew he was coming back to an offside position, so he didn't even challenge for it, and it goes out for a throw-in. Feels like a while since Newcastle have really threatened a goal, Karen.
Yeah, and I think that's perhaps why they're bringing on Dwight Gale now. Just that little bit of impetus, a little bit more pace. They came out the second half pressing, and they've just really dropped off now. So be interesting to see what he does when he comes on, Gale.
This is Marcondes. Back to Sorensen. And from midway inside his own half, rolls it back to goalkeeper Luke Daniels. Almiron comes sprinting forward to try and apply a bit of pressure. Sorensen goes long, cut out by Isaac Hayden. Good first touch on the halfway line from Longstaff to get it under control for Newcastle. Yedlin tries to play it forward, high towards Callum Wilson, beaten by the taller Ethan Pinnock. Brentford now come on the counter-attack. Canos, good ball in front of Josh Da Silva. 5 yards outside the Newcastle penalty area. That's a great pass back into Canos in the box. Clark had to be really careful there, and then he stretches and prods it out for a corner. Decent attack from Brentford, and they've got a corner now on the right-hand side. Still 0-0 on 5 Live.
Again, good play from Josh Da Silva. Again, I spoke about it, how he's peeling out into the wider areas. He tries to overload on the fullbacks of the Newcastle defence. And he played a little through ball. And he's gone out for a corner. Kieran Clark got across and saw it out. But again, they're really trying to get down the sides there. Canos in there as well, overloading down there. Got to make these count now, these set plays though, Brentford.
Joe Linton, I think, is preparing to come on as well for Newcastle. He's just been for a little warm-up run and he's been asked to come back. Dwight Gale is certainly coming on, but not until after this corner. Gola standing over it on the right-hand side. Busy penalty area where they're all crowding in on the goalkeeper. Here comes the delivery. Overstruck, flashes through the penalty area, squirts out the other side, just about kept in play from a throw-in by Da Silva. And now Thompson crosses high and hanging from the left-hand side all the way out to Goddess, who had taken the corner on the right-hand side. Chance for Canos, shoots it in, hit the body of defender Clark, and then it comes in another shot, and this time Clark heads it out for a corner. Newcastle remain under pressure, but still 0-0.
Again, 2 fantastic shots blocked by Clark. That's what he's in there to do. They made it happen. The crosses came in. The first one, the second phase came out to... Just trying to see who it came out to.
Canos first time and then Norgard the second time.
Both blocked there from Clark. Fantastic defending, right place at the right time. But again, the pressure is mounting for Brentford. They need to make this count.
Activity the Brentford side of the technical area too. I think Ivan Toney might be prepared for his much anticipated entrance. Got us with the delivery. Shelby clears it away at the front post. Da Silva will pick it up still inside the Newcastle half. Brentford playing from right to left as we look down, and Da Silva under pressure from Almiron. Good surge from Almiron, and Da Silva's got to play it all the way back to his goalkeeper Daniels, away to our right hand side. Direct boot up the pitch from Daniels, will bounce all the way through to his opposite number, Carl Darlow, away to our left hand side. Just over 25 minutes to play. Toney is fixing his hair ready for his arrival. He's got an impressive mane and he's making sure it's all tied back properly before coming on here. And one of the backroom staff has got an iPad out and they're giving him a few last minute tactical instructions as to what he's got to try and do. But I think the instruction is pretty simple. Can you get the ball, put it in the back of the net and send Brentford into the semi-final? Foul by Almiron on Sorensen, free kick to Brentford.
They've had the chances, Brentford. You know, they should be... Lost my headphones there. My headphones dropped. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Brentford have had the better chances, and now Newcastle bringing on subs because they know that they've been the better side in this game, Brentford, and maybe Toney can come on as well and be a bit more clinical. That's the only criticism of Brentford. They've been played the game really well. Just need to put it in the net now.
Right, very much attacking changes by Steve Bruce here. He brings on Dwight Gale and he brings on Joe Linton. And Almiron and Ryan Fraser are the two who make way. Almiron, who's been full of running, no real end result from him. And Fraser, who had 1 or 2 sparkling moments, one very good delivery into the box for Callum Wilson. He'd 1 good shot himself as well, but that's been about it from the former Bournemouth man. 0-0 it remains, but now Callum Wilson, Dwight Gale and Joe Linton, 3 strikers all on the pitch together at the same time for Newcastle. Can they provide some ammunition? Down the other end come Brentford. Godos is unfortunate there, nearly fell into his path in the penalty area. Marcondes plays it onto Canos, into the box again. Here's a chance, Da Silva! And his wonderful performance has been capped with the opening goal. He hit it first time on the volley as it came to him round about the penalty spot. Accurate shot. He didn't just blast it, he picked his spot. He's been the best player on the pitch, and Josh Da Silva has made it Brentford 1, Newcastle United 0.
It's nothing more than Brentford deserve. Absolutely fantastic. You know, Marcondes and Canos picking up the ball. They were hunting it down. They had no right to win it down this left-hand side. And then Canos, he just picks him out round the back stick. No one was tracking Da Silva. He came in, ghosted into the 18-yard box, just on penalty spot, actually. And the ball came in. He had to hit it on the half volley. It was a difficult execution, actually, on the volley. On the replay now, left foot on the volley, kept it low. kept his eye on the ball. And De Silva, the best player on the pitch tonight so far, puts them 1-0 up.
It's his 4th goal of the season. He's 2nd on this League Cup run. Brentford of the Championship could be on their way to their first ever semi-final of the League Cup. Steve Bruce, just as he brought on the double change to bring on a 2nd and 3rd striker for his team. But rather than score one down that end, Newcastle have conceded at the other. Cañas with a perfect, delicate delivery. No one picking up De Silva. It needed a culture touch, and he had the skill and the wherewithal to provide it. And now look at Brentford go. Norgard over the halfway line on the left-hand side. Plays it forward, clips the heel of Isaac Hayden. Newcastle look very disorientated now. Marcondes. This will be so disappointing for Newcastle fans. It's not over yet, of course. They can get an equaliser, they can bring this to penalties. But are Newcastle going to crash out of a cup competition once again? Are they going to be beaten by a team from a lower tier? Here is Joe Linton on the halfway line. First time he's been involved. Shrugs off Tariq Fosu. Gets to within 10 yards of the penalty area. Great ball into Callum Wilson. He shoots. Blocked by Sorensen out for a corner. Instant impact from Joe Linton there. And Callum Wilson nearly got the equaliser.
Tell you what, it's a fantastic pass from Joe Linton. He's played it through about 4 players into Callum Wilson. Wilson's took it on his right foot and then tried to swivel and hit it on his left foot, and it's got deflected out for a corner. But Joe Linton making an instant impact on that left-hand side, driving and putting that killer ball through.
We've got a game on our hands now. Brentford make the change. Sergi Cañas, who claimed the assist for the goal, will go off. Ivan Toney, against his old club, comes on for Brentford, their top scorer this season. 16 league goals he's got. More than anyone else in the Championship, more than anyone else in the top 4 tiers of English football. And Brentford 1-0 in front here against Newcastle, have just brought on their goal machine. Newcastle with a very good chance there. And now the resultant corner will be taken by Jacob Murphy. Brentford have made this change while they're defending a corner. You don't often see that. Murphy floats it in towards the back stick, and the referee blows the whistle, and the ball had actually gone out of play before coming back in again from Jacob Murphy. So that will be a goal kick to Brentford, who lead 1-0 and are 21 minutes, Karen, away from a place in the League Cup semi-final.
I'm a little bit surprised how Cañas has gone off. I think he's been really good tonight. But what Tony's come in at up top, Force has gone with him. I think they've changed to maybe a 4-4-2 now, going with 2 strikers up there and going 2 for 2, because they probably think that Newcastle will flood bodies forward because they need the goal and maybe be able to hit them on the counter-attack.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Norgard is sitting as the anchor midfielder. He's got Marcondes and Godos ahead of him. And then there's Toney and Fours as a 2 up front. And you would think if Brentford were to get a second goal here, that could well be that. Murphy has it for Newcastle. Good ball forward, looking for Callum Wilson into the penalty area. Good alert goalkeeping by Luke Daniels. Comes right to the edge of his box and gathers that ahead of Callum Wilson.
At least it's better, you know, for Murphy. He's trying to play the ball down the side. He's trying to play forward and be positive. They need a response now, Newcastle.
Shelvey's in trouble here. He's going to get booked. Foul by John Joe Shelvey on Christian Norgard. I think a bit of frustration spilling over there from Newcastle's number 8. I think that's the first yellow card we've had in the game for John Joe Shelvey. Newcastle, who played most of the second half of their game against Fulham on Saturday against 10 men. Joachim Andersen was sent off after 62 minutes, but they couldn't score. And here they need to score against the 11 men of Brentford now, or else Newcastle are being dumped out of the League Cup this evening. Free kick to Brentford, taken by Pinnock. From inside his own half, floats it forward. Toney is adjudged to have fouled Isaac Hayden. Free kick to Newcastle. Tony's come on, he's got shaven head on the back and sides, and then he's got the long kind of floppy ponytail that comes down over that. White boots with the pink toes, short sleeves, black gloves leading the line. And interesting to see when he's given the first opportunity, the form that he's been in. Brentford have got a throw in right full back position. Tariq Fosu to take it. Reminder, coming up in just over an hour from now, we'll be live for Arsenal against Manchester City, the second of this evening's League Cup quarter-finals. Fosu takes his time over the throw. That's a lovely touch from Toney. And Fours will come up to the halfway line. Important block by Kieran Clark. Otherwise, Godos might have been running onto a ball into the penalty area. Clark involved again here, plays it off an opponent out for a Newcastle throw. Clock ticks on. 18.5 minutes to go now. Brentford 1, Newcastle 0. The goal from Josh De Silva. Really well taken on the volley. Here is DeAndre Yedlin at the back for Newcastle. Shelby drops deep. Back to Isaac Hayden. This all looks comfortable for the moment for Brentford. Containing Newcastle, forcing their Premier League opponents to just pass it around the back four inside their own half. Yedlin, now he goes long. Searching for Callum Wilson, well tracked by Madsbæk Sorensen. Been impressed with Sorensen. He's only 21 years of age. Tall, Danish defender. And there's a clearance on the goalkeeper. Daniels goes straight out of play into the seats, the empty seats in front of us.
You can always tell from a good defender in Sorensen that they read the danger well. He had some good blocks, some really good important interceptions in the first half where really Wilson might have had a chance and could have scored. So you can tell he's a good player, and I like him next to Pinnock, and I love how Pinnock's come through the lower ranks, really, at lower leagues, and come through in that resilience. So them two are quite a force to be reckoned with.
Godos lumps one over the top. Tony's in pursuit. It'll drag on his sleeve by Isaac Hayden. He gets away with that. Tony has possession. Left wing for Brentford. Support behind by Godos, who veers in now towards the penalty area. Back to De Silva. And for once, an uncultured touch. A miscue by Josh De Silva, who's not put a foot wrong all evening. And then it's up towards Gale, who's caught to the sliding challenge by Tariq Fosu. And the referee says, fair challenge. Down went Gale, but Fosu won. Sorry, it wasn't Fosu, it was Dominic Thompson. Won the ball cleanly. Gale is still down. Referee will hold play, not for a free kick, but he just wants to make sure that Dwight Gale is okay.
Yeah, he's clearly won the ball there. Gone through. I don't think it was as high as probably people initially thought. I think the referee's had a good decision there. I think the pitch is a bit slippy as well, so it probably the force that went through on the slide made it look a lot worse than what it was, but good decision from the referee. And Dwight Gale's up, and he looks fine as well, which is a good thing.
Gale has yet to have a goal-scoring opportunity since coming on. He's up top with Callum Wilson. For the moment, Joelinton is playing on a left wing position. Jacob Murphy on the right wing. Time running out for Steve Bruce here, who absolutely has to go for it now. One goal for a penalty shootout, 2 goals to win it late on here. Jamal Lewis up to the halfway line. The challenge on Joelinton. And then a free kick has been awarded. Joelinton has somehow managed to... who's the free kick going to be towards? The referee hasn't signalled it. I presume it was a free kick against Joelinton. I'm not sure what he did there, but he's been adjudged to have committed the foul on Norgard. Free kick to Brentford, bang on the halfway line. Just over a quarter of an hour to play. This could be huge for Brentford. Free kick for Ethan Pinnock. Newcastle falling back into a defensive formation. Pinnock floats it high towards the edge of the penalty area. Tony gets up and wins the header. Then Kieran Clark does the same for Newcastle. Comes down from Marcondes. And he's in a challenge here with John Joe Shelby, and he's going to lose the ball. Chance of a counter-attack for Newcastle. Gale on the halfway line back to Longstaff. They feed it to the near touchline. Newcastle's right. Jacob Murphy. Godos getting close to him. Murphy tries to move past him down the right-hand side, but is forced back again. Now Murphy turns once more. Here comes the cross. Right-footed. Stooping header away by Sorensen. That's really good defending. And Brentford get it to De Silva and over the halfway line, and one for Tony to chase down the left-hand side. Hayden is the defender with him. Tony has a little glance in field to see what's on offer. Hayden lunges in, puts it out for a throw-in. Throw to Brentford down the left wing, and they've no urgency to take this one. They just want to start running the clock down now with a quarter of an hour to play.
Again, really good defending from Brentford. Murphy's trying to create something. He had no passing options on there, and he just defended the size 1v1 really well and win it back. And De Silva plays a nice ball down the side for Tony to chase, and he's quite happy to win his team a throw-in, gain territory, and as you said, run the clock down.
Are Newcastle on their way out of the League Cup again? Throw-in, which Sorensen has come forward. He's using his little towel again. Oh, very Rory Delap down there in his red and white stripes as he prepares to launch this is. Look how deep all the players are. They know this is going to be an enormous throw. Here it comes into the 6-yard box. Flicked on by Pinnock, sliding in at the back post. I think it was Norgard, and he was so close to scoring. Kieran Clark clears it away for Newcastle. That was a big opportunity. If Newcastle let in a second, I don't see them coming from 2 down. Here's John Joe Shelvey now. Brentford have pushed a lot of players forward for the throw-in. Wilson heads it on to Dwight Gale. Back again to Callum Wilson. Down the right wing for Newcastle. Gets to the byline, plays it off to Silva. Newcastle are going to get a corner. And it's all set to be a big final quarter of an hour now.
It's a good ball from John Joe Shelvey. That's what he does. He recognises where the space is. You don't need to overcomplicate things. Plays it into Wilson. He sets it back to Gale. Gale gives it back to him. They get up the pitch. And De Silva gets a block on the winner corner. You know, it's not difficult. Play with pace. Play with intensity. Give it to your best players.
Murphy prepares to take the corner. Brentford 1. Newcastle 0, 5 Live from the BBC. And the cross is won by Clark in the air, but his cushioned header is cleared away by the Brentford defence. Just for a moment there, time seemed to stand still as Clark prodded the ball forward, but there was no power on the header, and Brentford able to get it away. Longstaff back in the centre circle to the near touchline to Jacob Murphy. Needs to up the supply line here as he veers infield under pressure from De Silva and gives it to the other fullback, Jamal Lewis, on the left-hand side. Gale waits in there. Callum Wilson is in there. But can they provide the cross here? Newcastle are preparing to make up another change. It's another attacker being prepared to come on. The lesser spotted Andy Carroll is going to get a late cameo here.
I think what I would say is it's great bringing on Andy Carroll, getting another attacker on the pitch, but no point if you're not putting crosses into the box. And they don't do that. Murphy, I need you to get more crosses in. Joe Linton is not really what he's there to do.
Here is Murphy, shoots from miles out. Poor shot, scuffed it well wide of the target. Yeah, I mentioned that cross that Jacob Murphy provided for Dwight Gale's winner against West Brom. That was a brilliant cross on the right-hand side. We've not seen that from him at all. I mean, he's not even attempted crosses, really.
No, and actually the only opportunity where I thought Newcastle might look like scoring was when Fraser put in a whipped ball. You've got two really good players that can deliver the ball well. You've got players that are really good in the box at heading, getting in amongst it. I don't understand why it's not part of their pattern of play.
Yeah, it is surprising. Newcastle trailing by 1-0 away at Brentford tonight. The first of 2 League Cup quarter-finals taking place this evening. The other one is an 8 o'clock kickoff of the Emirates. Arsenal against Manchester City. Correspondent John Murray's got the teams. Hello, John.
Hi, Connor. Well, they're both much changed from the weekend. 8 changes for Arsenal, 7 changes for Manchester City. And the main point, in the continued absence of Aubameyang, Gabriel Martinelli gets his first start of the season. Another Brazilian, Gabriel, plays, having been suspended at the weekend. Mustafi and Kolasinac also start at the back. For Manchester City, Gabriel Jesus has been past fit to play for Manchester City. Aguero's on the bench. Mahrez, Bernardo Silva and Foden are also among the starters. Steffen's in goal, but there's no involvement at all for Kevin De Bruyne.
Thank you, John. John Murray with you for commentary. Arsenal against Manchester City, 8 o'clock kickoff this evening on 5 Live. We've 10 minutes to play here. Either Newcastle get an equaliser to force a penalty shootout, or else Brentford are going through to the semi-final. Here comes the Newcastle change. Andy Carroll will come on, and he is going to replace Jamal Lewis. So they're taking off the left back, and there are now 4 recognised strikers on the pitch for Newcastle. Andy Carroll, Joe Linton, Dwight Gale and top scorer Callum Wilson. There's so many cooks, you know. Can they provide something? Otherwise, they're going out of the League Cup. He's throwing the kitchen sink at it. Steve Bruce has changed for Brentford as well. Sees Matthias Jensen comes on, and he'll replace the goal scorer, Josh De Silva, who we've just been purring about tonight, Karen, and how well he's played.
Fabulous. Outstanding, and the bench are all stood up, giving him claps. Brilliant performance from him, in and out of possession, and then when he got his moment to score, he was clinical and took his chance.
Matthias Jensen comes on, turns 25 on New Year's Day, wearing a protective face mask. Tony tries a volley from the long ball that was thrown in by Sorensen, and he connected with it too. Defender got in his way to block it. At the moment, Newcastle have got Gale and Wilson up top through the middle. Andy Carroll is on slightly to the right-hand side, and Joe Linton slightly to the left-hand side as Newcastle pump it long. Cleared away just about by Dominic Thompson. Carroll picks it up for Newcastle on the halfway line, and then Longstaff wanted to pass it back to him. Carroll wasn't expected to get it back so soon, and it goes needlessly out for a good throw into Brentford. The body language isn't great, Karen, from Newcastle players. You know, you expect them to say, come on, let's get back in this. Look at them. No one's talking to each other. Oh, look at that. It's deflated body language for me.
Well, when Longstaff kicked it out there, I looked at Shelby and he literally shook his head and again put his hand on his head and was fuming. And he's your captain, you know, so you're right. The body language isn't great. However, they've got all their attacking players on now. He can't do any more, and there's 10 minutes to go. They've got to make something happen if they want to get it back into this game.
As you say, Karen, it's all well and good having 4 centre forwards, but you know the supply lining. Okay, Jamal Lewis has been taken off. He's a decent crosser of the ball. We've not seen much from Murphy. Yedlin's not had a cross in the match.
What they're doing now is they've got five up top, but all not making different movements. They're just in a line. You've got to have
Newcastle
variance.
All over the place. Shelby had dropped in amongst the defence. It was like 2 5-a-side teams. They had one team way away to our left-hand side, and then they had another team away up way to the right side, but nothing in the middle, so no way to connect those two sections of their team. Brentford 1, Newcastle 0. The goal by Josh Da Silva. 7 and a bit minutes of normal time to play here. There won't be much added on for stoppages. DeAndre Yedlin has it on the halfway line for Newcastle, and he'll come forward now on the right-hand side. Out to Jacob Murphy. Centre forwards queuing up in there, but Murphy tries to take it on the dribble. Goes around Godos. Now, here comes the delivery. That's not bad. Flicked on by Gale, but it can't be reacted to by Callum Wilson. And he just couldn't get his body in the position to shoot. It hits him and bounces into the arms of the goalkeeper, Daniels.
Connor, it's not hard. That is perfect example. You know, Murphy, 1v1, get a little touch out you, whip the ball in. Gale kind of leaves it for Wilson. It just wasn't, the touch was there, but that's the perfect opportunity. They could easily get back into the game. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't understand it from Newcastle. The game is actually very simple if you just play it that way.
Newcastle making this look hard at the moment. 1-0 down, 7 minutes to play. Ball goes out of play. Throw into Newcastle on the halfway line. Now they've got an urgency about them. Callum Wilson wants to take the throw in quickly. Dominic Thompson prevented him from doing so. There's a bit of blatant time wasting there, but he gets away with it. Jacob Murphy prepares now to take the throw in on the halfway line in front of an animated Steve Bruce, who's right out on the edge of the technical area. They've now got 3 at the back: Yedlin, Hayden and Clark. Then in midfield, Murphy's wide right, Joelinton's wide left, Shelby in the middle with Longstaff, and then Gale, Carroll and Wilson. Brentford doing a very good job of frustrating Newcastle here. They've won a free kick and they're delaying it, and the goalkeeper's coming out to take it, and it's all eating into the clock. 6 minutes of normal time to go. This would be some achievement for Thomas Frank. Is he about to claim his 4th Premier League scalp on this League Cup run? Brentford have already knocked out Southampton. They've beaten West Brom. They've beaten Fulham in this competition. They're about to add the name of Newcastle United, leading as they do thanks to Josh Da Silva's very well taken volley. Andy Carroll wins a header, but he can't pick out a teammate, and anywhere will do for Dominic Thompson, who kicks it into the stand. No time to waste for Newcastle. Murphy plays ball boy. Leaves it for DeAndre Yedlin to take the throw in. Back to Isaac Hayden behind him. Newcastle back level with the edge of their own penalty area. They need to get it down the other end. 5 line from the BBC. Shelby. Deep midfield position. Lumps it long. That's proper route 1. Comes down on the edge of the Brentford penalty area. Pinnock wins the header. Andy Carroll puts the laces through it. Thundering shot that goes about 25 rows into the empty seats of stands behind that goal. Way off target from Andy Carroll.
And that just sums up the evening, Connor. You know, Carroll tackled his own player, Longstaff, there to win the ball. He gets it on the chest, gets it down on the volley, and then just smashes it nearly out the stadium. And Steve Bruce walks away, grabs himself a drink and throws his arms in the air.
Andy Carroll, who has not scored since returning to Newcastle for a second spell, hasn't scored in his last 36 games in all competitions. Tony gets a brief touch of the ball for Brentford. Gale goes down under a challenge, and that's going to be a free kick actually to Newcastle, 15 yards inside their own half. The clock ticks on, just over 4 minutes to play now. Shelby, halfway line, up to Joelinton, digs the ball out from between his feet, runs into Norgard, who tackles it. Loose ball rolls for Callum Wilson. Up from right, full-back is DeAndre Yedlin. He's got Murphy outside him. He's sure he's got to get this in the penalty area. Here we go. Lofted cross in. Callum Wilson chests it down, hooked away by Pinnock. Surprised he didn't head it towards goal there, Wilson. He tried to take it down on his chest. And Brentford clear it away. Dominic Thompson clears the ball off DeAndre Yedlin, and a goal kick to Brentford.
I'm not sure why Callum Wilson tried to chest it down. I'm not sure whether he was thinking there's going to be a runner on and someone else might be in a better position. But again, good ball in. Yeah, I think he was looking for Gale there. But it was a good ball in from Murphy, and I think there he's tried to chest it down because Gale's pinned off of him, ran off of him, and he's trying to pass it to him with his chest, and he's well defended. I must say, the back four at Brentford have been brilliant tonight. You know, Jacob Murphy's having to cross now from deeper positions because Thompson's been outstanding as a fullback and he can't get past him. They've been brilliant.
On the verge of a clean sheet here against their Premier League opponents, Brentford. Beat Reading 3-1 at the weekend. Beat Nottingham Forest 3-1 a few games ago. Team who have aspirations of being in the Premier League next season. And they are 3 minutes away now from claiming their 4th Premier League scalp of the campaign. Andy Carroll shoots again from a long way out. And it's wide of the target. Well, you know, you don't buy a ticket, you don't buy the raffle. 2 speculative efforts from Andy Carroll, but both off target. This one much closer than the previous volley.
Again, route one, very direct now. Looking just to launch it up, find Andy Carroll. Didn't come to him initially, but he's picked up the second ball, got it onto his left foot and lashed at it. Just 2 yards wide, but as you said, if you don't shoot, you don't score.
Well, they've got to go for it now, Newcastle. It really is shoot on sight policy. Having lost 5-2 to Leeds last midweek, having drawn at home against Fulham and played most of the second half against 10 men. This will be a disappointing trip back up to the northeast if they lose here. 2 minutes to play. Fosu crosses from the right-hand side for Brentford, too high for Tony. And it's going to trickle out of play for a throw-in to Newcastle. Right full-back position for them. Brentford 1, Newcastle United 0. This quarter-final is almost all over. Remember, if Newcastle get an equaliser here, it would force an immediate penalty shootout. Carroll beaten in the air by Sorensen. Falls, though, for Callum Wilson. Good quick feet from him to give it to Andy Carroll on the right wing. He plays a crossfield ball, a very good ball, to Joe Linton. Fosu tracks out to keep an eye on him. Joe Linton comes in field of Fosu. That's really good for the Brazilian. Now what can he do in the penalty area? Great feet again. Lashes across with too much power on it. He did so well in the build-up there, Joe Linton, but he needed a more delicate touch. I mean, he's almost on the edge of the 6-yard box when he hits the cross. He gave it full throttle. It needed just to be scooped for one of his teammates.
He did everything right, but the final delivery. Everything, you know, Fosu's been unbelievable tonight. No one's got past him. That's the first time he's got beaten. Joe Linton was brave. He used his strength, he used his pace. He gets in the 18-yard box and just smashes it. You've got to pick someone out. You've got 3 bodies in there. You've got to be better with your end product.
There are 40 seconds remaining of the 90 minutes. Brentford are almost there for the first time in their history. Are they going to a League Cup semi-final? Murphy crosses from the right-hand side, looking for Dwight Gale. He takes it down in his chest. Oh, it went through the guards and throws it up to Marcus Fors. He's tackled by Shelby, who blasts it away out of defence up towards Marcus Gale. Decent layoff back to Jacob Murphy, still in his final third. Runs into Godos, supported by DeAndre Yedlin. That's very good from the American international. Skips between 2 opponents and powers his way into the Brentford half. Gets to the edge of the penalty area, delivers a cross. It's Andy Carroll at the back post. He tries to shoot and it's blocked. And I think it was Matthias Jensen who got it away. Last gasp defending. Maybe it was Norgard. For a moment there, it looked like Andy Carroll was going to grab a late headline.
That was a moment. Yedlin, fair play to him. He's picked the ball up and ran 40-odd yards and put a really lofted ball in, but there's another chance now. Sorry, Connor.
Shelby back to Longstaff, 15 yards outside the penalty area. Poor pass which Newcastle nearly lose. There's no one at home. If Brentford were to pick up possession here, they'd have a clean run through to Carl Darlow in the Newcastle goal. Murphy takes on 2, sends in a cross. Tony's back helping out the Brentford defence. The former Newcastle man heads it away. Now Godos on the halfway line. He's just got to hold on to possession. He draws a foul from Jacob Murphy. It's a free kick to Brentford. And we have played 2 minutes of the 4 being added on for stoppages. Still Brentford lead Newcastle 1-0.
Best moments have come when Murphy's just put the ball in the box. Connor, it's really simple, and I don't know whether that's Steve Bruce's tactics or the players not listening to him or doing their own thing. But really, it's just been frustrating to watch Newcastle tonight. You have to credit though Brentford. They've been superb. The back four in particular have been really good. But Newcastle so disappointing.
Less than 2 minutes to go. Andy Carroll is offside as he challenges for the ball in the air. So frustrating for Newcastle as they try to rouse a comeback here. Newcastle's games this season have featured a lot of late goals. They have scored late. They have conceded late quite often this season. Is there to be a late equaliser here that could bring us a penalty shootout? Josh De Silva's goal in the second half here at the Brentford Community Stadium. As things stand, will it be enough to send his team through to the semi-finals? Here's Ivan Toney into the penalty area, shoots for the first time from a really tight angle, and it fizzes across the face of goal and deflected out for a corner. That was really good from Toney, so direct, so positive, and he wins a corner which I'm sure his team will take their time over.
It's a mistake between Murphy and Yedlin. Neither of them deal with it. He's played a 1-2, giving it back to Toney, and he's absolutely smashed it, and it's a brilliant save.
Yeah.
Really good save from Darlow, because that was going in the bottom corner.
First shot in anger since coming on for Ivan Toney, Brentford's top scorer this season. Corner to the home side, which they take their time over. Newcastle have left Callum Wilson and Dwight Gale up. Everyone's back defending the corner kick. 30 seconds of stoppages to play. Down goes Toney under a foul from Longstaff, and now it's going to be a free kick to Brentford, and this will lead another 15-20 seconds into the clock. And Newcastle, I think they're out of time, Karen. They're on their way out of the League Cup.
Yeah, and it's just like, as soon as Longstaff did that foul on Toney, I shook my head and looked at Bruce, and he did the same thing. It's like, don't give a foul away there, because it just kills another 20-30 seconds, and that's another opportunity that you can't have to attack.
That's it, we've played the 4 minutes now. Toney eventually tackled by that corner flag. Goal kick to Newcastle. This is very much their last chance. They all sprint forward. Darlow is going to kick this straight down the middle as far as he can. Here it comes from the Newcastle goalkeeper. Referee brings the whistle to his mouth, and it's all over. Brentford, for the first time in their history, are going to the League Cup semi-finals. Newcastle's long wait for a trophy continues. They are out of the League Cup at this quarter-final stage, and it is a fourth Premier League scalp now in this competition this season for Brentford. After knocking out Southampton, after knocking out West Brom, after knocking out Fulham, they now add Newcastle to the list, and they will bring confidence into the game, whoever they play in the semi-final. Josh De Silva, man of the match performance, and the winning goal was his. Karen Carney.
Brentford, it's nothing more than you deserve. Brilliant tonight. As poor and as shocking as Newcastle were, Brentford were brilliant. The back four was sensational. As you said, Josh De Silva, player of the match easily, and he only played 60-70 minutes. But wonderful finish from him as well. But overall, really good performance, and Thomas Frank will be absolutely ecstatic. As you said, 4 Premier League teams now they've beaten. This team, we know they got to the playoffs last season, but they're going only in one direction, this club.
Yeah, they have shown tonight they do certainly have Premier League credentials, despite making 6 changes to his starting 11. Thomas Frank's Brentford have beaten a strong Newcastle team here. Newcastle, who finished with 4 strikers on the pitch, throwing the absolute kitchen sink on it. But it's another evening in which Newcastle have not been good enough. They are out